Subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
Meters away. No need to send me off. After saying this, Ishigamihara left directly, without any intention of staying, leaving only Uzumaki Kushina yelling unwillingly. Let's leave this girl to Namikaze Minato. Ishigamihara doesn't intend to get involved. It's too violent, and only Namikaze Minato can stand it. No one stopped him from leaving. The Umbu team that sent him stayed. Ishigamihara left alone. On the way back, Senju Tobarama finally couldn't help but speak again. Kid, who is the new Jinchuriki in the village? Ishigamihara nodded and asked, "Calm down?" "Kid, what do you mean?" Ishigamihara said, "If you keep yelling like a kid, I don't mind expelling you from my body. You're not the first one." "Damn it," Senju Tobarama snorted, but his tone changed and was no longer so aggressive. "So, which clan are you from?" Ishigamihara did not hide it and directly told me his origin. Ishigami. Sure enough, Senju Tobarama asked the real question. Did your clan's idea succeed? Ishigamihara did not feel any psychological pressure about this. He could only accept what his ancestors did. Almost. What do you mean by almost? I clearly felt the chakra of the Uchiha clan in you. That kind of cold feeling is good. Senju Tobarama said. Ishigamihara's heart moved, and his own chakra had some special nature transformation. Sure enough, Senju Tobarama was surprised and asked directly, "This is the chakra characteristic of the Senju clan. How could it be?" "Feel it." While speaking, the chakra on Ishigamihara's body changed again. "No, this is the chakra characteristic of the Hyuga clan." Is this the chakra characteristic of the Uzumaki clan?" After saying this, Senju Tobarama fell silent. Only because Ishigamihara's chakra changed continuously. Sometimes it was Uchiha's, sometimes it was Senju's, and sometimes it became Hyuga's, and it changed back and forth like this without any stumbling during the process. "How could it be? How did you do it?" Senju Tobarama's voice was full of amazement. As a true ninjutsu doctor, he knew the meaning of it too well. As you can see, the idea of the Ishigami clan did come true, but it was a little special in me. Ishigamihara said, "What do you mean?" Ishigamihara's mouth curled up, and there was a little more evil taste inexplicably. As you can feel, I have the physical characteristics of the Senju clan, and I also have the chakra volume of the Uzumaki clan, and I also take into account the chakra characteristics of Uchiha and Hyuga. Oh, by the way, I also opened the Sharingan and the Byakugan. Senju Tobarama was silent, not knowing how to speak for a moment. "How about it? Give your evaluation." Ishihara asked. It's incredible. It's simply a miracle." Even if he found it hard to accept, Senju Tobarama couldn't say anything against his will at this moment, just because Ishigamihara's existence was truly a miracle in the history of the ninja world. 081 Hokage Konoha Day trip, Senju Tobarama was indeed shocked. As the second Hokage, he had developed countless forbidden techniques in his lifetime. Whether it was the mastery of ninjutsu or various theoretical knowledge, Senju Tobarama was the one standing at the top of the ninja world. It was also because of this that Senju Tobarama understood the value of Ishigamihara's words. Various bloodlines were awakened in Ishigamihara, which had never happened before in the ninja world. As a researcher, Senju Tobarama wanted to study Ishigamihara immediately. It was a pity that he was a dead man now, and he was powerless to deal with this unknown. After such excitement, he fell silent. Ishigamihara did not disturb his thinking. The return journey was smooth and quiet, but Ishigamihara did not go back, but went directly to Hokage Rock. Standing on a high place and looking up, the prosperity of Konoha is clear at a glance. Ishigamihara said in his mind, 207. How do you feel looking at all this in front of you? Second Hokage. It is interesting to look far from a high place. This is also the first time Ishigamihara has seen the whole picture of Konoha. It must be said that as the most powerful ninja village in the ninja world, Konoha is indeed very prosperous. At least from Ishigamihara's perspective, Konoha can be called prosperous. Yes, it has changed a lot. Is the current Hokage still a monkey? Senju Tobarama asked. Ishigama nodded slightly. It is indeed Sarutobi Hiruzen, but why? Do you have an opinion on the monkey? People are old and cunning, let alone Senju Tobarama. How could he not hear that Ishigamihara's words were full of meaning? Ishigamihara smiled. I can't say I have an opinion, but I'm not very satisfied with him. To be honest, he was ordered to take charge of the battlefield and accepted your instructions. He has worked diligently for decades without making any mistakes. But he is good at maintaining the status quo, but not good at going in. This is really Ishigamihara's true evaluation of Sarutobi Hiruzen, but it feels a bit weird to say it with his identity. Senju Tobarama felt this way and snorted coldly. You underestimate the Hokage too much. Although I still don't know what happened after my death, the monkey has done a good job in managing the village. On this point, Ishigamihara did not refute, but asked, what kind of changes will I bring to Konoha if I become the Hokage? Senju Tobarama paused, and, after a long silence, he said, Kid, what do you want to do? Senju Tobarama keenly noticed the difference in Ishigamihara's words, which was a bit teasing, but revealed some of his true meaning, which made Senju Tobarama very alert. Senju Tobarama, who was already vigilant about Uchiha, unconsciously brought Ishigamihara into the Uchiha camp when he heard the words just now. Apart from anything else, who made Ishigamihara have the blood of Uchiha and open the Sharingan. Ishigamihara, didn't care and disappeared from the spot in a flash. Ishigamihara appeared outside the Hokage building, looked up and glanced at the building, and then walked in as usual. In the Hokage office, there was no one else at this time. Only Sarutobi Hiruzen was sitting behind the desk, carefully correcting documents. After receiving the notification, he looked up and saw Ishigamihara walking in. Haru, why are you here? Sarutobi Hiruzen was a little surprised. After Ishigamihara came in, he looked around, mainly for Senju Tobarama to see, and said, I'll submit the task. DB. Sarutobi Hiruzen forgot about this, but he quickly reacted and nodded. Is that so? I see. I will arrange an S-level task reward for you. After saying that, seeing that Ishigamihara did not respond, he asked, anything else? Ishigamihara just smiled and nodded and said, nothing. Thank you, Hokage-sama. After saying that, he bowed slightly and was about to leave, but he looked at the other person one more time before turning around. This glance in Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes made him startled, and he seemed to see another person in trance. The person's eyes were serious and scrutinizing, which made Sarutobi Hiruzen stand up involuntarily and wanted to call out the word teacher. However, after he came to his senses, Ishigamihara's figure was no longer in front of him. Everything just now was just an illusion, which made Sarutobi Hiruzen a little dazed for a while. After a while, Sarutobi Hiruzen sat down again. Frowning, his mind was churning, and he didn't know what he thought of for a while. He sighed silently and shook his head helplessly. Is it really old? I actually saw my teacher in that child. It's really a strange feeling. Sarutobi Hiruzen sorted out his thoughts and put his experience back on the work in front of him, but he found that he couldn't calm down at this moment. He pondered for a while and finally sighed, saying to the outside, Please ask the 2 consultants to come over. Yes. Someone outside the door immediately responded and then left. It really gave me a difficult problem, hurrah. While sighing, Sarutobi Hiruzen leaned back on the back of the chair, and his brows never relaxed from beginning to end. After leaving the Hokage office, Ishigamihara looked back at the Hokage building, still smiling, looking very warm. How do you feel? He asked. Senju Tobarama was silent for a moment, then said, What time is it now? Winter of the 39th year of Konoha. As he looked up, he saw snowflakes falling. Well, it's snowing. Has it been so long? Senju Tobarama sighed and asked, What's the situation in the ninja world? As you can see, we are now in the Second Ninja World War. Konoha is under attack from all sides, and the situation is not very good. I just came back from the battlefield, and I don't know when I will have to go to the battlefield again. Ishigamihara didn't lie. He didn't ignore everything during this period. Ishigamihara naturally understood the changes in Konoha's external environment. Has the war broken out again? Damn it. Since the death of my eldest brother, peace in the ninja world has become a delusion. Ishigamihara didn't think there was anything wrong and said bluntly, for point one, without the power to suppress an era, peace is naturally a luxury, but it doesn't matter. Peace will come soon. Although Senju Tobarama didn't know why Ishigamihara was so sure, he didn't say much. Instead, Ishigamihara said, "By the way, do you want to meet Nawaki, that child?" "Good." Ishigamihara smiled upon hearing this and was looking forward to his reaction. As expected, when Senju Tobarama saw Nawaki in the Ishigami clan's territory, he was in a bad mood. "What is that?" Nawaki put his hands together, shouted softly, and young shoots emerged from the ground in front of him, and then quickly grew into big trees and quickly took shape. As you can see, it's with style. This kid Nawaki actually mastered with style? Ha, good. 082 Konoha situation takes a sharp turn for the worse. Senju Tobarama's joy was beyond words. Although Ishigamihara couldn't see him at the moment, he could feel the joy in his words. Nawaki was the grandson of the first generation and also the grandson of Senju Tobarama. It was understandable that Senju Tobarama was delighted that such a close relative had mastered the power, and the power of wood style, which belonged to the eldest brother. Ishigamihara did not explain the reason. In his opinion, this kind of thing was nothing. "Hey, Hara." Feeling Hara's arrival, Nawaki immediately became happy and raised his hand to shake it. "How is it going?" Nawaki said excitedly. "It's going well. It will probably not be long before I can try the secret of wood style." Ishigamihara raised his eyebrows. "Tree world birth." Yes. Nawaki became even more excited, and he kept talking to Ishigamihara, talking about the power of wood style and other uses of wood style. "Let me tell you, I have developed 2 good wood style ninjutsu, look." Speaking of this, Nawaki quickly formed seals with both hands and then slapped the ground. "Wood style housing technique." Crack. Then I saw that on the 11 open spaces in front, a tree trunk quickly rose, and then the trunks split and intertwined with each other, and soon it became a tree house. Although it is not as delicate as a normal building, it also has a nose and eyes, and it is obviously habitable. Ishigamihara felt slightly depressed, and Senju Tobarama also made a timely comment. "Yes, this child has a talent for developing ninjutsu." "No, which eye of yours saw that Nawaki had talent in developing ninjutsu?" Ishigamihara looked at the tree-hole wooden house in front of him, which was made of a few thick woods. He didn't know how to evaluate it for a moment, and could only nod and say, "It's a good idea. You may go deeper on this basis. I think this technique can be more refined." Yeah, I think so too." Nawaki was still very happy. Ishigamihara did not disturb him too much. The two chatted for a while. Seeing that Nawaki's enthusiasm had not subsided, Ishigamihara went back to the laboratory. Arriving here, Senju Tobarama was silent for a while, but when Ishigamihara started an experiment, Senju Tobarama couldn't help but speak after all. "Are you a blood experiment?" On the test bench in front of him, there were various utensils, many of which contained blood and body tissues, but they were not complete, more like they grew freely, rather than being taken from a normal person's body. As for the fact that the experiment was seen through by Senju Hashirama at a glance, Ishigamihara was not surprised. After all, he was Senju Tobarama, and he had done countless experiments on his hands, and his experience was far more than Ishigamihara. "XT, I remember that your Ishigami family was disbanded after the village was established. Well, I integrated it again. As for the reason, you should be able to guess it." Senju Tobarama was silent for a moment, and when he spoke again, his voice had become serious. "Is it because your bloodline was activated that others noticed the other members of your Ishigami family? Indeed, you are worthy of being the Hokage. You can't hide such things from you." "So who did it?" Senju Tobarama's political sensitivity is very high. After all, he has been a Hokage. He immediately figured out the reason and even had some guesses. I will provide a few names. How about you guess, Hokage? Ishigamihara kept moving his hands and said in his mind, Third Hokage Tsurutobi Hiruzen, village advisors Mitokado Hamura and Udatane Kohuru, root leader Shimura Dans. Okay, guess. Senju Tobarama was silent, as if he didn't expect Ishigamihara to ask him to make a choice. But he didn't say much, but gave the answer after a little hesitation. It's Danzo, right? Huh. Ishigamihara chuckled and nodded. Yes, it seems the Hokage knows these people very well. I see. Senju Tobarama didn't respond to Ishigamihara's words, but said to himself, The root, was it established for the benefit of the monkey? If I'm not wrong, it should be used for training Umbu. But based on my understanding of Danzo, the current root should have autonomy, right? It should be said that just based on this sensitivity, Tsurutobi Hiruzen is not even worthy of carrying Senju Tobarama's shoes. Ishigamihara's smile became more obvious, and he said bluntly, That's true. It's a pity that you, the second generation, died too early. Otherwise, the village would definitely not be like this now. What do you mean? Ishigamihara did not hide it, and said, The village leaders implemented your ideas, the second generation, and made targeting Uchiha their top priority. The root leader Danzo even killed Uchiha Kagami and took away his Sharingan, hoping to use it to control the power of Sharingan and deal with Uchiha. Senju Tobarama suddenly became angry and said angrily, Target Uchiha? Why would they do this? Now, it was Ishigamihara's turn to be surprised, and he couldn't help asking, Why did the second generation have this reaction? Shouldn't you hate Uchiha? Senju Tobarama snorted coldly, but said, It's true that I hate Uchiha, but I hate Uchiha who is alienated from the village, not the entire Uchiha clan. Otherwise, I wouldn't have brought the mirror with me. There are also people in the Uchiha clan who love the village. If they can't separate these and directly target the entire Uchiha clan, this approach is simply stupid. Ishigamihara raised his eyebrows, put down the utensils in his hand, and asked with a smile, Then why do the second generation say that the Uchiha is evil? The evil of the Uchiha comes from their extreme emotions. They're a clan of love. If they can't really understand, they will fall into extremes. Such Uchiha is naturally evil. A clan of love. Ishigamihara thought of something and nodded slightly. It's really an appropriate description. So kid, are you leaning towards Uchiha? Of course not. Ishigamihara shook his head and said directly, I am not leaning towards Uchiha, but I am also not leaning towards the village. You don't love the village? Senju Tobarama asked directly. Ishigamihara thought about it. This question is not so easy to answer. After a moment of silence, the latter said, I can't say it's love, but it's not that extreme. I may not have as deep feelings as you Konoha, but I really hope that Konoha will become better. Senju Tobarama was silent. Ishigamihara didn't care and did his own thing, and then said, I want to create a special ninja clan, and based on this, unite other ninja clans and even ordinary ninjas and villagers to strengthen the entire Konoha, the second generation. Do you think I can succeed? I don't know, Senju Tobarama said solemnly, but I will keep an eye on you. If you dare to do something bad for Konoha, I will stop you. Haha, really? I'm looking forward to it. Ishigamihara stopped talking. Time passed in Ishigamihara's experiment, and soon several days passed. There were some results of the experiment, but not much, but such things need accumulation. Fuju was not anxious. On the contrary, the atmosphere in the village became more solemn during this period. The reason is very simple. Cloud Shinobi and Rock Shinobi have united. Ishigamihara knew that the death of Cloud Shinobi's second Raikage and the siege of Rock Shinobi in the original plot did not happen, and it was unknown what kind of deal there was between Inoki and second Raikage. In short, the two sides united. Although they could not be said to be united against the outside world, they could still target Konoha together. You are indecisive, and don't let you give Rock Shinobi a fatal blow at the critical moment. The monkey is really going backwards. This is the evaluation of Senju Tobarama. He has known a lot of things that happened before, including Ishigamihara's actions on the battlefield, and thus criticized Sarutobi Hiruzen. 083 The bloodline of the clan is opened. That day, at the main gate of Konoha village, Ishigamihara bid farewell to Nawaki. That's right, Nawaki was going to the battlefield again, and this time he was going to the most dangerous cloud shinobi front. As the grandson of the first generation, and now he had mastered the wood style, Nawaki had no reason to refuse. In fact, he never thought of refusing and was even very excited. Watching Nawaki leave with many ninjas from the same village with a smile on his face, Ishigamihara waved his hand and watched everyone leave. In addition to Nawaki, there were more than 100 people traveling with him, and they were all the elite of the village. There were even more people who came to say goodbye, and Ishigamihara could only be regarded as an ordinary one among them, but he still attracted attention. Ow! Ishigamihara asked in his mind. After these days of getting along, Ishigamihara and Senju Tobarama have become more familiar with each other. Unlike Uchiha Azuna, Senju Tobarama is obviously more willing to communicate with others, so the two of them have more daily conversations than Uchiha Azuna. This scene in front of him makes Ishigamihara feel very interesting, especially the village leaders bypassing him and directly choosing to let Nawaki go to the front line. The meaning is self-evident. Humph! Senju Tobarama snorted coldly, obviously not satisfied with the arrangement of the village leaders. Do you think that at this time, the senior people are still worried about this and that, which is not up to the standard? Kaiuehara still asked back. This time Senju Tobarama did not avoid it, and said coldly, Monkey is qualified to be Hokage, but he is still a little weak and lacks the atmosphere that Hokage should have. The fact is indeed, as Senju Tobarama commented, Ishigamihara just smiled at this. A lot of Uchiha people have gone, but they are in the east. You should know what they are about to face. Use Uchiha to deal with mist shinobi people? That's right. Ishigamihara smiled unchanged. It's really disappointing. Senju Tobarama commented, Uchiha should fight on the front battlefield. They can't play much advantage against mist shinobi. Anyone with a discerning eye can see that. After standing for a while, Ishigamihara turned around and walked back. He thought the arrangement of the village leaders was normal and had no extra thoughts about it. Anyway, he had already talked about it in the Hokage's office that day. Since those people in the upper echelons still chose not to trust him, Ishigamihara had nothing to say. After returning to the clan, Ishigamihara ordered people to call Ishigami Fong and Ishigami Hashu. These two are Chunin, and they're only in their early 20s. Strictly speaking, their qualifications are just SOSO. Of course, this is compared with their peers in the Bloodline Ninja Clan. If placed among civilian ninjas, this kind of talent is already good. After experiencing the root, the two people's personalities have changed a little, and it is only after this period of cultivation that they have recovered a little. Even so, the two people are now a little silent, and Ishigamihara doesn't care about this. This time, the two were called here just because the bloodline experiment has reached a certain level and can try to start the next step. Are you sure it will succeed? Senju Tobarama asked. The experiments during this period, Ishigamihara did not hide it from Senju Tobarama, so the whole process was under Senju Tobarama's attention. Senju Tobarama knew exactly what Ishigamihara did. It was because of this that Senju Tobarama asked this question. It was because some of Ishigamihara's experiments seemed a bit unbelievable to Senju Tobarama. I'm not sure, but the success rate should not be low. As he was talking, Ishigami Fu and Ishigami Koki had arrived. The two of them didn't say anything nonsense. After bowing slightly, they stepped aside and waited for Ishigamihara's instructions. You should know why I called you here, right? Ishigamihara asked. Yes, master. Ishigamihara nodded and smiled. That's good. Relax. Don't be nervous. He took out 2 reagents and said, This is the gene medicine I made according to your own situation. It can activate 10 genes in your body. He took out 2 file bags and handed them to the 2 people respectively, and explained, Fong, the genes belonging to the Uzumaki clan in your body are more complete. So if nothing goes wrong, the gene medicine should be able to activate this part. Hashu, you are close to the genes of the Hyuga clan. If the experiment is successful, You should be able to open your Byakugan. The two looked at each other subconsciously after hearing this, and they saw excitement in each other's eyes. As ninjas, they naturally understand what the ninja bloodline represents. Ishigami Fong is better. The Uzumaki clan is nothing more than a larger amount of chakra, but the Hyuga clan is different. They have Byakugan. If the experiment can really succeed, it will definitely be a good thing for them. In his mind, Senju Tobarama remained silent. What Ishigamihara was going to do was beyond his expectations. He didn't know if he had warned Ishigamihara before about the consequences of doing so. But Ishigamihara was reckless and ignored him completely. In this way, Senju Tobarama could even imagine what kind of shock this experiment would bring to the village. No, the entire ninja world if it succeeded. By then, the entire fashion clan would be targeted by all the bloodline ninja clans in the entire ninja world, and the small fashion clan would be in trouble. I advise you to be cautious. For you now, this kind of thing is more dangerous than an opportunity. I think you should know that. Senju Tobarama, for the sake of the village, still gave a word of advice, and his tone was very sincere. If he hadn't been unable to directly control Ishigamihara's body, he might have really taken the initiative to do something. Don't worry, second generation, I know what I'm doing. While replying in his mind, Ishigamihara had already completed the injection work on the two people. At this time, the two people were tied to two test tables, wearing only shorts. Ishigamihara had set up barriers and seals around the test tables in advance, striving to make the whole process smooth. DUF. Ishigami Fong suddenly tensed up, twisting and twitching on the test table, and his face looked hideous. Looking at his body again, his blood vessels were bulging, his whole body was tense and sweating profusely. It was obvious that he was suffering from some kind of pain. If you look closely, it is not difficult to find that the originally light red hair is starting to become brighter from the roots, although it is not yet Ishigamihara's level, is very eye-catching. On the other side, Ishigami Koki is even worse. He is screaming, his eyes are wide open, his teeth are clenched, his body is also tense, and his eyes are full of bloodshot. The original light brown eyes have gradually become more similar to the white of the eyes, but they are slightly darker and have a beige luster. The screams are very shrill, but Ishigamihara is unmoved. He just checks the monitoring equipment next to him and reads various physical indicators. It's a pity that this blood inheritance and gene activation method is still a bit rough and not universal. Only gene drugs can be developed for individuals. Ishigamihara shook his head as he spoke, as if he was not worried at all that the experiment would fail. Bang! Suddenly, the bandages that bound Ishigami Koki broke, and Ishigami Fong jumped up from the test bench and wanted to rush out. But the next moment, the spells around the test bench emerged and turned into tiny ropes, binding it tightly. Ishigamihara looked over and saw that Ishigami Koki's eyes were now pure white, with veins bulging on both sides of his eye sockets, and he looked hideous. Seeing this scene, Ishigamihara smiled instead. It's a success. 084, possessing the mind of a Hokage, the whole process seemed to go smoothly. Apart from the pain suffered by the two, there seemed to be no accidents. But others did not know. But Senju Tobarama had seen the whole process and knew the preparations Ishigamihara had made for this experiment. He had rehearsed 3 times, not to mention the effort he had put in before. The reason why the experiment went so smoothly was that, in Senju Tobarama's opinion, Ishigamihara had taken every detail into consideration. He had never seen such an experimental attitude before, especially in a young man, which was really shocking. Great kid. This was Senju Tobarama's sincere evaluation. No matter what consequences this move would bring to the fashion family and the village, Ishigamihara's contribution to the ninja world in this experiment alone was impeccable. Ishigamihara just smiled and said nothing more. He raised 2 fingers and untied the east binding on Ishigami Koki. Ishigami Koki fell to the ground from the test bench with a thud, struggling to tear off the connection between his body and the monitoring equipment. His body twitched from time to time, especially with a very high frequency, and his tears could not be controlled. 230 Ah. Another scream. But it was Ishigami Fong on the other side who suddenly bent his body. The blood vessels on his body bulged, as if they were about to burst, and a layer of light blue chakra flames ignited on his body surface. And the overall look was extremely struggling. Kid, I advise you to stop first. This kid's physical fitness is too weak to support such a big change. Senju Tobarama immediately saw the key and couldn't help but dissuade him. Ishigamihara shook his head and replied calmly, "You underestimate me too much, second generation. Keep watching." Sure enough, the next moment, all the spells on the test bench where Ishigami Fong was located rushed to Ishigami Feng's body, and also penetrated into it bit by bit. The burning chakra flames were extinguished quickly, just like fire meeting water. This scene really surprised Senju Tobarama, and he said in surprise, "This is the seal of evil?" No, there's also the chakra conversion technology of the four-symbol seal in it. You actually disassembled and combined these two seals into a new seal. Good eyesight. Ishigamihara smiled and said, "In fact, it's more than that, BBCD. I also added the suppression technology of the 8-sign seal and the sealing technology of the Uzumaki clan to restrict their own chakra, but it is not systematic." Senju Tobarama is also a master of sealing techniques. Naturally, he knows the difficulty of this. Hearing this, he was a little silent and didn't know what to say for a while. As time passed, Ishigami Koki had stood up, but the process of standing up was not smooth. He barely stood up with the help of the test bench and shook his head from time to time. "How do you feel?" Ishigamihara asked. "Ugh." Ishigamihara retched repeatedly and shook his head again. After each shake, his face would twist and he would make a sound. "My lord, this feeling is too uncomfortable. My sight is so dizzy." Ishigamihara raised his lips and nodded. "It's normal. Your Byakugan cannot be closed. It is in an overtly activated state. In other words, it is the same as the Byakugan of the Hyuga clan, but the gene expression of their clan is more obvious. So most Hyuga people can open their eyes automatically at a very young age. And as they grow up after opening their eyes, their brains will get used to the negative feelings brought by 360-degree vision until they finally get rid of all the negative feelings." As he said that, Ishiguro raised 2 fingers, and then a special curse seal appeared on Ishigami's forehead. As soon as the curse seal appeared, it suppressed Ishigami's sight, and the latter panicked. "My lord, I can't see," Ishigamihara said. "Don't be nervous. I have temporarily closed your optic nerve with a curse seal. You should rest for a while, and it will be much better when your brain gets used to the existence of the Byakugan." Yes, Ishigami Koki was not so nervous after hearing this, and simply sat down where he was, panting and recovering his energy. On the other side, Ishigami Feng's condition has stabilized, but perhaps the encounter just now was too fierce, so he fainted at this time. Ishiguro was not in a hurry, just waiting quietly. But Senju Tobarama in his mind couldn't hide his sigh. "Do you plan to let all the members of the Ishigami clan open the bloodline?" Ishigamihara nodded and did not hide it, and said, "I do have plans in this regard. Do you know the consequences of doing this? If Uchiha and Hyuga knew that you have such ability, I'm afraid they will really go crazy." Ishigamihara smiled. "You'll get used to it. Are you really fearless?" Ishigamihara said, "If I were not too young, I would have the idea of replacing Sarutobi Hiruzen and becoming Hokage. Second generation master, what kind of changes do you think will happen to the ninja world if I become Hokage?" Senju Tobarama was silent for a moment, and then said, "I don't know anything else, but you will definitely break the current situation of Konoha. Second generation master, are you afraid that what I do will harm the village?" "Of course, even if my eldest brother is still alive, he would not dare to do this. It's too risky." Ishigamihara just smiled slightly and said meaningfully, "What the first generation master can't do, I may not be able to do. After all, second generation master, you have seen my potential, right? Have you always been so proud? What's wrong?" Ishigamihara asked back. "Kid, you think the position of Hokage is too simple." Ishigamihara said, I understand that it is not the strength that makes one become a Hokage, but the recognition that makes one become a Hokage. The reason why Sarutobi Hiruzen hesitates in everything is because he was appointed by you, not by the recognition of the entire village ninja. Therefore, he must maintain this sense of recognition. Otherwise, it will be difficult for him to hold the position of Hokage. Senju Tobarama was speechless and had nothing to say for a while. After a long silence, he said, "You are more mature than I thought, and you do have the thinking of a Hokage." "Thank you. I'm not praising you, Brad. Uchiha Izuna has the tsundere that belongs to Uchiha, and Senju Tobarama also has the pride that belongs to Senju, so he is naturally dissatisfied with Ishigamihara's response." At this time, Ishigami Fong had woken up, and he directly flipped over and fell from the test bench and looked at his body incredulously. "How do you feel?" Ishigamihara asked. "Master, my chakra seems to have more than tripled. 0.85. The pressure is on the village. The Uzumaki clan's body may not be as good as the Senju clan's in terms of recovery ability. After all, the Senju clan has more or less the characteristics of the sage body, but the Uzumaki clan can definitely be called the best in the ninja world in terms of chakra volume, and this is the average quality of the Uzumaki clan." Even Senju Tobarama was amazed at this point. Really succeeded? At this point, Senju Tobarama was a little skeptical. "Not bad," Ishigamihara said to Ishigami Fong with a double meaning. "What about the speed of chakra extraction?" Ishigami Fong closed his eyes and felt it for a moment, then opened his eyes and said with joy on his face, "It's about the same, much faster than before." "Good." Ishigamihara smiled and nodded, and then said, "Congratulations, you will be considered a true bloodline ninja from now on." Ishigami Fong seemed to have thought of something, and said with surprise, "Master, could it be that my descendants can also inherit this?" "Oh, that's not possible." Ishigamihara shook his head. Ishigami Fong looked disappointed, and Ishigamihara continued, "The vortex gene in you is activated by external forces, but it is not the dominant one. So even if it is passed on, it will inherit your original appearance. But now your genes in this part have been activated and have a certain degree of heritability. Although it cannot reach the level of you, it will be much better than before." Ishigamihara Feng's eyes lit up, and he asked impatiently, "In other words, my offspring will be better than me?" Ishigamihara nodded. "That's about it. Your offspring will definitely be more talented than you, but I'm not sure how much stronger they will be." Ishigahara immediately knelt on his knees and took a seat, saying loudly, "Thank you very much, Master. Get up. No need to be so polite." As he said this, he saw Ishigami Koki facing this side with his eyes closed, and his face was still full of expectation. Ishigamihara said, "Your situation is similar to his, but it is still unknown whether your offspring can open the Byakugan. In short, you don't have to worry too much. I will continue to study. I believe that if the conditions are sufficient, I should be able to find a technology to allow each other's bloodline genes to be truly inherited." "Yes, Master." The two responded at the same time. "This is definitely a good thing for them, and the same is true for the family. It seems that you are planning to cause turmoil in the entire ninja world," Senju Tobarama said in a deep voice. "Let's wait and see." "What?" In the Hyuga clan, in the mansion that Ishigamihara had visited before, a Hyuga knelt on one knee and was reporting the information he had obtained today, and this information was naturally about the Ishigami clan. "Did you see it clearly? Did you see it wrong?" Among the 7 elders, the Hyuga Kawaryu who had led Ishigamihara was incredulous. His expression was extremely solemn, and his voice was full of murderous intent. "Yes, Lord Kawaryu, I will never see it wrong." The 7 people looked at each other, and they could see the embarrassment in each other's eyes. The thing they were most worried about before had happened now. "You go down first." The elder took a deep breath and gave an order. "Yes." The visitor did not dare to look up at all and hurried away after receiving the order. The atmosphere in the hall was extremely solemn. Hyuga Kawaryu said angrily, "No matter what, we must not let the Byakugan wander around." "That's right. If it was just Ishigamihara before, we could still tolerate it. After all, He mastered the wood style and was of great significance to the village. But now he is not the only one who masters the wood style. Nawaki, the grandson of the first generation, also masters the wood style. In this way, the importance of Ishigamihara has been reduced. Another person nodded and agreed. Indeed, no matter what, the uniqueness of the wood style has been broken, and the importance of Ishigamihara in the village will inevitably decline. We may be able to use this to persuade the Hokage and the 3 advisors to win their support. Yes, our Hyuga clan cannot be in the front on this matter. Everyone was very angry. If Ishigamihara's visit last time only brought shock and worry to the Hyuga clan, then the worry now has become a reality. Ishigamihara is the only one who has the Byakugan, and that is just an isolated case. No matter how unwilling the Hyuga clan is, they can only bite their teeth and swallow it in view of the village's tacit attitude. But now the situation is different. In addition to Ishigamihara, there is a second member of the Ishigami clan who has the Byakugan. This means that Ishigamihara must have mastered some kind of technology that allows the Ishigami clan to open the Byakugan. This is a threat that is almost devastating to the Hyuga clan. If you think about it, you can feel the pressure of the Hyuga clan, so they will not allow a second Hyuga clan member to appear no matter what. This is in the interests of all the people in the clan. Suddenly someone said in a deep voice, "Perhaps we can unite with the Uchiha clan." Hyuga Kawaryu frowned, glared at the man, and said, "Are you kidding? You want our Hyuga clan to ask Uchiha for help?" The man said calmly, "Now that the Ishigami clan can have a second member who can open the Byakugan, there will inevitably be a second member who can open the Sharingan. This is a threat to both Hyuga and Uchiha. Why can't we unite with them?" Hyuga Kawaryu fell silent after hearing this. No matter how proud he was, he couldn't deny the strength of Uchiha at this time, so there was no reason to refute. The elder sighed at this time and said in an inexplicable tone, "This kind of thing is obviously beyond the control of our Hyuga clan. Let's see the opinions of the village leaders first. At this time, we must not be the first to take the lead. We should give the pressure to the village leaders." Now, everyone was silent. What the elder said made sense. No matter what they did, the ones who should be really anxious at this time should not be them, but the village leaders who saw this crisis. There were no fools present. Everyone knew that if the village leaders didn't handle this matter properly, it would definitely anger the Hyuga. At this point, it was not a matter of whether the village leaders would agree or not, but how to appease the entire Hyuga clan and even involve the Uchiha at that time. That's right, we just need to express our attitude, and the rest depends on how the Hokage handles it. Then let's do this for now. In addition, send someone to contact the Uchiha and tell them our Hyuga's decision. So small. 086, taking on a mission in a time of crisis. The reaction of the Hyuga clan was not unexpected. The action of contacting Uchiha was unknown to others, but Ishigamihara had already anticipated it. He could even predict the final reaction of the 2 clans. "You little brat, do you want to play with people's hearts in your hands?" Senju Tobarama asked this because Ishigamihara had anticipated what would happen recently, and the result was also obvious. Ishigamihara anticipated it. "Why do you say that, second generation? Don't you think the village is dead now? Little brat, don't imagine things too simply. Hyuga and Uchiha may choose to temporarily endure for the sake of the village, but they will never let you continue like this. If you do this, it will easily push yourself to the opposite side of all ninja clans." Senju Tobarama warned very seriously. As he said, Senju Tobarama did not want Ishigamihara, a very promising junior, to end up like the Calendar clan, who was targeted by everyone. "Second generation, you are late." Ishigamihara smiled, but his words were very direct. The village chose to let Nawaki go to the battlefield. I believe you should understand what it means without me saying it. This is obviously to build momentum for Nawaki. As long as he can get enough merits on the battlefield, I believe it won't be long before the whole village will chant Nawaki's name. Senju Tobarama was silent. What Ishigamihara said was true. He could not deny it. At the same time, he also hoped that Nawaki could do this. As a relative, this also met the needs of reality. Because in Senju Tobarama's view, if Nawaki became Hokage, he would definitely be a Hokage like his elder brother. If that were the case, perhaps the peace in the ninja world could last longer. As for if Ishigamihara became Hokage, Senju Tobarama did not dare to think about what Konoha or the ninja world would look like at that time. The result could be good, but it could also be bad. But this unpredictable ending was what Senju Tobarama would subconsciously reject. However, I think it will not be long before I step into the battlefield again. Ishigamihara suddenly said. Why do you say that? Senju Tobarama asked in a deep voice. It's very simple. The pressure Konoha is facing this time is too great. After Konoha refused to return the Jinchuriki directly, the hatred between the two villages was destined to be difficult to resolve. Now, there is Cloud Shinobi lurking on the side. The pressure on the northern line is far greater than before. Humph! Senju Tobarama snorted coldly. Sarutobi Hiruzen and others have no problem with this arrangement. It's indeed no problem. If Rock Shinobi's Jinchuriki is returned at this time, it would be really stupid. So in fact, Konoha has no choice in this matter. This is also the inevitable result of Konoha's maintenance of its own status. That's right, so the two sides will have a war sooner or later, and now it's just ahead of time. Nowaki does have great potential, but before he really grows up, it's still a bit too early to intervene in such a war. I think the pressure that the third generation is under is not something that ordinary people can understand. Ishigamihara's words were meaningful. The two did not discuss this issue in depth. Both Senju, Tobarama, and Ishigamihara were very clear that the other's thinking was different from their own, or the different ways of thinking led to the different styles of doing things. Ishigamihara's approach of breaking some tacit understandings was incomprehensible to Senju Tobarama. But Ishigamihara knew very well that under the seemingly peaceful appearance of Konoha, there was the danger of class solidification. Some things, breaking from the inside is life, breaking from the outside is food, and the current Konoha is far from what Ishigamihara expected. In this way, even if Senju Tobarama thinks Ishigamihara is a genius and has the hope of becoming Hokage after growing up, such a Hokage may not be what the village wants, so naturally he does not approve of his various practices. Ishigamihara didn't want to explain this. No one could understand what he did now, but Ishigamihara knew that what he did was right. The conversation between the two ended quickly, and Ishigamihara was summoned by the Hokage again. You see, the Hokage couldn't hold on any longer. On the way to the Hokage building, Ishigamihara talked with Senju Tobarama again, and the latter said in a serious tone, maybe there was something wrong on the front line. It's obvious, otherwise, the village leaders wouldn't meet me at this time. Ishigamihara was very sure about this. As for the pressure from Hyuga and Uchiha, to be honest, he didn't care. In fact, the village's cold treatment during this period was precisely because of the war. The group would let both sides maintain superficial calm. On the other hand, suppressing the ninja clan is also in the interests of the village as a whole. As long as Sarutobi Hiruzen is not stupid, he will not make his attitude clear to Ishigamihara at this time. As expected, in the Hokage's office, Sarutobi Hiruzen did not mention this matter at all, but made a transfer order to Ishigamihara. Hara, the battlefield on the northern front is tight, and the village needs you to stand up at this time. Sarutobi Hiruzen said in a serious voice. There were only Ishigamihara and Sarutobi Hiruzen in the office, and the consultant was not present. Obviously, Sarutobi Hiruzen did not want any accidents to happen during this period. Ishigamihara nodded. As a member of the village, I have no choice but to do this. How will Hokage arrange it? Sarutobi Hiruzen took out a mission scroll and said in a deep voice, the village needs you to go to the northern battlefield as soon as possible to deal with the pressure from Rock Shinobi and Cloud Shinobi. You must withstand the joint attack of both sides and relieve the pressure on other fronts. Ishigamihara took the scroll and opened it to read it, and then frowned slightly, and the voice of Senju Tobarama in his mind was full of anger. It's really abominable. Rock Shinobi and Cloud Shinobi actually used Jinchuriki at this time. The scroll had already stated that Rock Shinobi and Cloud Shinobi's attack this time was quite fierce, and they dispatched a huge number of 4,000 to 5,000 people. This was fine, but the key was that Rock Shinobi and Cloud Shinobi both used Jinchuriki, and the northern defense had been retreating step by step, and even retreated all the way to the territory of the Land of Fire. Nawaki had a good performance on the northern battlefield, but it was precisely because of the appearance of what style that Rock Shinobi and Cloud Shinobi made up their minds to directly use Jinchuriki to compete, and Nawaki had not really grown up. So facing the two Jinchuriki, it was rare that he could persist until now. I see. I will leave immediately, Ishigamihara said directly. Sarutobi Hiruzen's expression relaxed a little after hearing this, and he nodded. In that case, I'll leave it to you. 5.2. You're too polite, Hokage-sama. The two had a brief exchange, and Ishigamihara didn't say much nonsense. He left after receiving the task. Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at Ishigamihara's back, sighed deeply, and put his hand on his forehead. Obviously, the situation has been beyond his expectations. Otherwise, Sarutobi Hiruzen would not let Fuhara enter the battlefield again at this time. He knew too well what role Ishigamihara would play after arriving on the battlefield, and how much fame he could gain at the same time. This was not what the village leaders wanted to see. But the current war cannot be separated from Ishigamihara, and it has to be said that this is also a kind of sadness. Kid, you expected this to be like this, right? Senju Tobarama asked in his mind. Ishigamihara shrugged. It is obvious that the village leaders still think some things are too simple. 087 warning and reassurance. Senju Tobarama didn't think this through, but because he had just returned from Hades, his understanding of the current situation of the ninja world was naturally not as clear as Ishigamihara's, so he couldn't make accurate judgments on many things. If he had experienced everything Ishigamihara had experienced, he would know that the current result was basically doomed. As mentioned before, if Ishigamihara had been on the battlefield, it would be a question whether Rock Shinobi and Cloud Shinobi could unite, and Konoha would definitely not be as passive as it is now. It's a pity that Ishigamihara was recalled, so all the possibilities before have become extravagant hopes at this time. Of course, Sarutobi Hiruzen and others didn't know these things, and they wouldn't think of them, but they would definitely have regrets. After all, Ishigamihara's combat power was there. Not to mention that he was powerful enough to deal with the war. He didn't talk much with Senju Tobarama about this matter, and soon went back to make arrangements. His identity, when he went to the battlefield this time, was somewhat special. He was the Genin captain under the general command of the front line, which meant that he had the right to arrange combat missions. Ishigamihara was a little surprised at this point. He didn't expect that the village leaders would give him such great power. It seems that the village leaders are desperate. Ishigamihara sighed. Humph. You underestimate the monkey too much. After learning about Ishigami 11hara's thoughts, Senju Tobarama naturally had to speak for Sarutobi Hiruzen. After all, Sarutobi Hiruzen was the Hokage he chose. If this Hokage didn't do well, wouldn't it mean that his choice was a failure? Ishigamihara, just smiled and said nothing more. In addition to himself, Ishigamihara also planned to bring Ishigami Fu and Ishigami Koki to the battlefield this time. One of them had a greatly increased chakra, and the other opened his Byakugan. Although their talents have been completely changed, they are obviously incomparable to before and have greater training value. According to Ishigamihara's estimation, if these two can fully adapt to the war and survive, it will not be difficult for them to become Genin. In this way, it can be regarded as an example he set for the family. The family's arrangements are very simple. There are several elders, and Ishigamihara does not need to worry about ordinary things. As for whether the family will be targeted by Hyuga and Uchiha during his time on the battlefield, Ishigamihara is not worried about this. Being targeted is certain, but looking at the appearance of the village leaders, it is obvious that they intend to stabilize the current situation. Even if the Uchiha and Hyuga clans hate each other, it is difficult to do anything at this juncture. Of course, even if they really do it, it's nothing. It's nothing more than waiting to be targeted after the war. Ishigamihara is just a liquidation. I believe the two families are not stupid enough to not think of this. The Hyuga clan, the clan land, is still in that hall, and the 7 elders are gathered, each with a strange look. The reason why everyone reacted like this is entirely because of a scroll placed in front of everyone at this moment. This is a scroll that records ninjutsu, which has been opened at this time, and the first few words are particularly conspicuous in done spiritual extension technique. In addition, in the second half of the unfolded scroll, there are two other techniques, named Gentle Fist Method Reverse 8 Trigrams, 64 Palms, and Gentle Fist Method Heaven Defying. If the description of the technique on the scroll is not bad, this spirit extension technique will definitely increase the pupil power of the clan members by about 30% on the original basis. Everyone looked at each other after hearing this and saw surprise in each other's eyes. Someone said, "Reverse 8 trigrams, 64 palms is even more of our Hyuga clan's 8 trigrams palms, has all the loopholes fixed and has been greatly strengthened. In addition, Gentle Fist Heaven-Defying Suction Force is completely opposite to Revolving Heaven, which can provide great help for Gentle Fist in close combat." The elders stared at the scroll with a frown and said in a deep voice, "Are you sure this scroll was sent by the Ishigami family?" An elder nodded and said, "It was indeed sent by the Ishigami family." "What did that person say?" the elder asked again. The elder who answered shook his head. His expression was very strange, but he still said, "Nothing was said. He just left after taking this scroll." At this time, someone said again, "The senior officials hope that we should focus on the overall situation and not have disputes with the Ishigamihara clan during this period. Could it be that this is the village's warning to the Ishigami clan, so that they can send an apology?" The Hyuga clan is naturally unwilling to give up on the fact that the second person in the Ishigami clan has opened the white eyes, but the village's current attitude is very clear: don't make trouble at this time. The people of the Hyuga clan are not stupid, and they naturally know that if they have a dispute with the Ishigami clan at this juncture, it will definitely give the handle to the senior officials, which is very unwise. So after the anger that day, the Hyuga clan can only choose to temporarily forbear. The Uchiha clan also made the same choice. After all, there has not been a second Ishigami clan member who has opened Sharingan, so the attitude of the Uchiha is much more relaxed than that of the Hyuga. It's no wonder that the Hyuga people think this way. As a powerful family, it is normal to protect their own rights and interests in this situation. Even if the village is biased, it still wants to consider Hyuga's attitude. The elder shook his head. The village has other arrangements for appeasing Hyuga. There are no Hyuga people in the personnel sent this time, which obviously has nothing to do with this matter. As for whether it is an apology from the Ishigami clan, the elder still shook his head. "I don't think so." "Then what does that kid Ishigamihara want to do?" The elder's face was heavy. After thinking for a while, he said in a deep voice, "This matter will stop here for the time being. Even if we want to target the Ishigami clan, we have to wait until the war is over. The emotions of the tribesmen also need to be appeased." Another person said. The elder glanced at the person who spoke and knew that the tribesmen he was talking about were the main family, not the branch house. "Let's do this for now. No matter what Ishigamihara's attitude is, since he can take out this scroll, at least it means that the kid has no intention of completely breaking up with us, which is also a good thing for us. Tell the other people in the main family about this scroll and say that it is an apology from the Ishigami clan. As for the second pair of white eyes in the Ishigami clan, we will deal with it after the war is 100. Yes." The man could only respond after hearing this. The elder narrowed his eyes slightly as he looked at the scroll, his eyes flickering. Others did not know what he was thinking. Only he knew how shocked he was. Ishigamihara is unfathomable. The elder Hyuga had only this idea at the moment. Among the three techniques, the Intuin Lingtoa technique was obviously developed for pupil power, which could enhance the effect of pupil power. For the pupil technique ninja clan, it was definitely a treasure. The other two techniques were to complement and strengthen the Hyuga clan's battle heritage. The targeting was too obvious, and anyone who didn't know would understand Ishigamihara's intention. This is clearly to tell Hyuga's people that Ishigamihara has methods against them, and there are quite a few, but he just doesn't want to use them. These people are here to think wildly, but they don't know that this is specially arranged by Ishigamihara. The same arrangement is also made by the Uchiha clan, who also sent a scroll, which also records the Indun Reitua technique. Compared with the 3 techniques given to Hyuga, Uchiha only has this one. As for why Ishigamihara did this, the intention is actually very simple, mainly to appease and warn Uchiha and Hyuga not to act rashly, and at the same time send 3 techniques as a generous gift, indicating that he does not want to completely conflict with Hyuga. The sticks and red dates are ready, and it depends on how Hyuga's people choose. 088, strange Uzumaki girl, we're almost there. In the field, Ishigamihara paused, checked the direction, and ordered, rest here for 5 minutes. Yes, there were 4 ninja teams go to the battlefield this time, and Ishigamihara and his team had a total of 17 people. These 17 people are all elites, the lowest of which are special Junin level, and the captains of the teams are also Junin level. With Ishigamihara, this team alone can carry out some missions that can destroy a country. This place is close to the grass country, and the border of the grass country is ahead. The forces of both sides are in the grass country, and now the grass country has completely become a battlefield. This is Xiao Wei's sorrow. Unlike the situation in the rain country, the grass country has pursued a policy of non-resistance throughout the whole process. Even after the situation turned to Rock Shinobi and Cloud Shinobi, the grass village simply cooperated with them directly, and now it has stood on the opposite side of Konoha. As a result, the already bad situation seems even more precarious. It is precisely because of this that the village leaders are so anxious to choose this time to rearrange Ishigamihara to enter the battlefield. Knowing that Ishigamihara will definitely gain great fame after entering the battlefield, the village leaders still have to do it. I think it should be very painful for those who hold power. Silently, 5 minutes passed quickly, and the long journey was also a burden for everyone. However, the people present were not weak, so each of them had the skills to quickly recover their physical strength. 5 minutes was enough for everyone to recover after a long journey. Ishigamihara acted quite relaxed. He didn't even sweat much after a long journey, and he still looked calm. This look fell into the eyes of others, and people couldn't help but look up to him. Naturally, everyone present knew Ishigamihara. The knowledge here means knowing a lot of Ishigamihara's situation, including past achievements. It is hard to imagine that a teenager of 12 or 13 years old can grow so fast on the battlefield and even influence the direction of a war. This made many people feel depressed when they thought about it, and they felt that they had lived a dog's life at such an old age. If Ishigamihara was the focus of everyone's attention in the village because of his outstanding appearance in the past, then now he has become the center of everyone's attention purely because of his talent and has also gained support. Everyone felt touched by this point. Ishigamihara has done a lot of work in the past few days. Although they did not encounter any danger along the way, the crazy people of Cloud Shinobi have sent many people into the Fire Country to spy on intelligence, and even went deep into the Fire Country. And along the way, Ishigamihara has found 3 similar intelligence teams. The ability to detect the enemy's chakra fluctuations from several kilometers away is not unique in the ninja world, but it is indeed rare. In this way, everyone has made contributions before going to the battlefield. For ninjas, there is nothing better than this. This is just one aspect. During the whole process, everyone basically didn't see Ishigamihara rest. Even if someone was arranged to keep watch, Ishigamihara would only sleep for 1 or 2 hours and then keep watch together. Such a leader is naturally reassuring for everyone. In just a few days, everyone's views on Ishigamihara changed again and again, and it became a matter of course to support him. Ishigamihara did this not to win people's hearts. It was because he didn't need a rest for too long. His recovery ability was far beyond that of ordinary people, but others didn't know this. Another point is that this is also Ishigamihara fulfilling his own responsibilities. It is within his job, and there is nothing to say. 5 minutes passed quickly. After everyone recovered some energy, they set off again. It didn't take long for them to enter the border of the grass country. What they saw was a desolate scene. The impact of war on small countries is not insignificant. Abandoned fields can be seen everywhere, and even traces of battles can be seen in many places. Following the designated route, the group arrived at the camp after about half an hour, and Ishigamihara also met the frontline commander here, Orochimaru. Yes, he was transferred from the Rain Country a long time ago, and that place has now been handed over to Jiraiya because the task here is heavier and Nawaki has also arrived here. So, it is naturally better for the master and apprentice to work together, and it is also convenient for Orochimaru to take care of him. This series of arrangements must be made before Nawaki can master the wood style. It can be seen that Nawaki is expected by the village leaders. "Welcome, Harakuen. You've worked hard all the way," Orochimaru said. Ishigamihara nodded. "You're welcome, Lord Orochimaru. Where's Nawaki?" Orochimaru shook his head. "I was injured in a previous battle, and I'm recuperating now." "Is it serious?" "Fortunately, it's not serious. I'll be able to recover after a few days of rest." However, Nawaki has now become the target of Rock Shinobi and Cloud Shinobi, and the camp has been under a lot of pressure recently. There are more than 600 ninjas in the camp, some of whom were transferred from the Rain Country, and the rest have come from the village in recent times, but they are still stretched in the face of the alliance of Rock Shinobi and Cloud Shinobi. Fortunately, Harakuen arrived at this time, otherwise I don't know how long I can hold on here. Orochimaru said this, which shows how great the pressure is during this period. "Thank you for your hard work, Lord Orochimaru, and I'll trouble you to arrange these people. I'll go see Nawaki first." Ishigamihara said, "Well, you should rest first, and we'll talk about the combat mission later." Okay. Ishigamihara didn't waste any words. After handing over the mission to Orochimaru, he went to the camp medical department. There were many wounded here, and Nawaki was one of them. When he saw Nawaki again, Ishigamihara couldn't help but smile because Nawaki looked quite funny at this moment. Both hands were wrapped in bandages, hanging in front of his chest. His face was still injured, and one eye was swollen. This didn't look like the result of a battle, but more like being beaten. "Let me tell you first, don't laugh." Nawaki was very happy to see Ishigamihara coming, but seeing Ishigamihara's appearance, his smile immediately withdrew. Okay. Ishigamihara's smile disappeared. His face returned to calm. He looked around Nawaki and nodded, and asked, "What's the matter? Why is your face like this?" Speaking of this, Nawaki was a little indignant, so he said, "No, not that. You are talking bad about me behind my back again?" A scolding voice appeared, and a girl walked out of the tent behind Nawaki. The girl had red hair, which was conspicuous, and wore a pair of glasses. She looked quiet, but she wore a Kusagakure forehead protector. TSK, it was this guy who did it. He is obviously a member of the Uzumaki clan, but he has to work for Kusagakure. Ishigamihara raised his eyebrows. At this time, the other party also saw Ishigamihara and was dazzled by his handsome face at first, and then saw Ishigamihara's hair color, and then widened his eyes. Are you also a Uzumaki?" 089. Take the initiative. It can be seen that the girl was very excited, and even her eyes had turned red. She stared at Ishigamihara's hair color, and her eyes were full of expectation. "No." Ishigamihara's answer was very direct. As expected, when she didn't hear the answer of no, the girl's expression suddenly became lost, and tears fell from her red eyes. Ishigamihara had a guess about the identity of the girl in front of him. If his guess was correct, the girl in front of him should be related to Karen. As for what the relationship was, Ishigamihara was still unsure. But Ishigamihara spoke again. "Although I am not from the Uzumaki clan, I have the blood of the Uzumaki clan. My name is Ishigamihara, and my ancestors had an alliance with the Uzumaki clan, and I have also received the favor of the Uzumaki clan. So strictly speaking, you can't regard me as a member of the Uzumaki clan." Nawaki echoed on the side and nodded. "Yes, this guy is the heir of my grandmother and inherited the legacy my grandmother left in Konoha. And this guy's sealing technique is the true teaching of the Uzumaki." Hearing this, the girl couldn't help but look at Ishigamihara twice more, and then she thought of something and asked Nawaki, "Your grandmother? Is it that Lord Mito?" "Of course." Nawaki nodded proudly. His grandfather and grandmother have always been his pride. So that's at 770. Unconsciously, The girl looked at Ishigamihara with a touch of intimacy in her eyes. My name is Uzumaki Kaneo. The girl introduced herself, and it was obvious that she wanted to talk to someone, but it was obvious that Nawaki was not a good person to talk to. So after meeting Ishigamihara, she couldn't help but tell her story again. In this way, Ishihara knew what happened to the girl in front of him. Just as Ishigamihara expected, Uzumaki Kaneo was a member of the Uzumaki tribe who escaped after the destruction of the Uzumaki country. The few tribesmen who escaped scattered all over the place. Uzumaki Kaneo's parents died on the way to escape, leaving only her to drift to the grass country. For safety reasons, Uzumaki Kaneo planned to take root in the grass country, and the grass village took her in, which is why Uzumaki Kaneo wore the grass village forehead protector. As for her situation in the grass village, it can only be described as a tool. Ishigamihara glanced at her arms covered by long sleeves and almost understood her situation. You still don't want to go back to Konoha with me? Nawaki asked. Uzumaki Kaneo gritted her teeth slightly, but said, since the destruction of the Whirlpool country and Konoha did not lend a helping hand, Konoha can't be my destination. It can be seen that Uzumaki Kaneo has a lot of opinions about Konoha watching the destruction of the Whirlpool country. Maybe it can't be said that she hates it, but she doesn't have any good feelings at all, which is quite embarrassing. At least when it is said so bluntly. Nawaki's face has already been embarrassed. This child is a survivor of the Whirlpool. If you can, help her. In his mind, Senju Tobarama, who had been silent for a long time, spoke at this time. Ishigamihara just simply hummed and said to Uzumaki Kaneo, if you are willing to believe me, come back to Konoha with me after the war is over. Uzumaki Kaneo was silent and did not agree or refuse. The relationship between the two has not reached that point yet, and they are not familiar with each other. Ishigamihara has even prepared to be rejected, but looking at the girl's appearance, there is still room for discussion. I promised Master Mito that I would help the Uzumaki clan. Now that we have met, I cannot ignore your case. By the way, there are also clan members in my Ishigami clan who have activated the Uzumaki bloodline. To be honest, you are not alone. Nawaki also remembered at this time and hurriedly said, yes, I don't know if it is the Ishigami family, but there is actually another Uzumaki clan member in the village, Uzumaki Kushina. Do you recognize her? Uzumaki Kaneo was startled and then said in surprise, is it Sister Kushina? Ishigamihara said, yes, Uzumaki Kushina. She is living well in Konoha, BDD. If you are willing to go back to the village with us, you can meet her after you go back. Uzumaki Kaneo took a deep breath and said to Ishigamihara, anyway, I am your prisoner now. Do I still have the right to choose? Nawaki opened his mouth to speak. Ishigamihara smiled and answered straightforwardly, of course not. That's it. Uzumaki Kaneo snorted coldly. Ishigamihara smiled and looked up at Nawaki and said, I'll leave her care to you. Huh? Nawaki's eyes widened immediately and he refused to do it. I'm still a wounded soldier. I don't want to take care of her. Uzumaki Kaneo turned his head away immediately. Ishigamihara had already seen that there was something going on between the two of them, and even the injury on Nawaki's eye socket was related to it. But what did this have to do with Ishigamihara? He waved his hand and was about to leave. Okay, you guys are busy. I have something else to do. I'm leaving. Hey, don't go, you guys, don't go. Nawaki yelled, but Uzumaki Kaneo grabbed his arm and came out immediately. Let go, let go. Ishigamihara had already left at this time and did not intend to interfere with the affairs between the two. In his opinion, the two now had a bit of a happy enemy, and it would be inappropriate for him to disturb them. Second generation master, if this continues, Nawaki should not have to worry about family problems in the future. Ishigamihara said in his mind. He was responded to by silence, and Senju Tobarama obviously did not intend to respond to this. It's a pity that the second generation master did not leave any bloodline. I have given my whole life to Konoha, and I don't need my own bloodline. Senju Tobarama said. Sure enough, you are worthy of being the second generation master. While speaking, Ishigamihara came to the tent where the command was located, and several people inside were discussing the next war with Orochimaru. Harakuen, what are your plans for the next battle? Orochimaru asked. Ishigamihara asked, where are the rock shinobi and cloud shinobi? Have you explored them? They have a separate camp next to the Kusagakure village, and the two sides are not far away. Ishigamihara nodded and said directly, then take the initiative to attack. Don't give them too much time. Orochimaru was surprised. Are you confident? Ishigamihara smiled slightly. Don't worry, I have experience in dealing with Jinchuriki. Great. Orochimaru also smiled. Okay, then let's talk about how to take the initiative. 090 appear at the critical moment. On the 7th day after Ishigamihara arrived at the front line, on a vast plain in the northeast of the Land of Grass. Boom! A violent explosion sounded, mixed with various shouts and curses. Countless people were fighting here, including Konoha, Rock Shinobi, Cloud Shinobi, and Kusagakure. The situation was not one-sided, but Konoha was clearly at a disadvantage with 3 parties against 1, and it was not at an advantage in manpower, so that it had been losing ground since the beginning of the battle. At the back of the battlefield, Ishigamihara sat cross-legged on a large rock, looking far away. There was no one around him, as if this battle had nothing to do with him, and his expression seemed very indifferent. It's almost time. In his mind, Senju Tobirama's voice was solemn, observing the battlefield from Ishigamihara's perspective, waiting for the best time. Your plan is a bit too risky, Senju Tobirama said. Ishigamihara's expression remained unchanged. He just watched quietly. His eyes were already excited, one red and one white, both revealing indifference, and he stared at the battlefield. Have you heard of this saying, wealth and honor are sought in danger? Ishigamihara asked. Humph. Senju Tobirama didn't like Ishigamihara's attitude, especially his attitude that he didn't seem to care about anything, which made Senju Tobirama feel inexplicably resistant. Senju Tobirama couldn't tell why, but in short, Ishigamihara's attitude gave Senju Tobirama a bad feeling, as if everything in the ninja world had never been in Ishigamihara's eyes, and he would not frown even if the ninja world was destroyed. Every time he thought of this, Senju Tobirama would feel uncomfortable, so his perception of Ishigamihara always stayed at the point that he was an indifferent person. Ishigamihara doesn't care about this, and he won't try to make others understand him. The strong are always lonely. Just get used to it. I hope you have the ability to control the overall situation. Otherwise, Konoha will lose this war. This is what Senju Tobirama is most worried about. At this moment, Konoha had deployed all its forces on the battlefield, but there were only 500 or 600 people in total. Facing the thousands of coalition forces of Rock Shinobi and Cloud Shinobi, it was extremely difficult to resist. It was not proportional at all. Fortunately, the enemy did not use all its forces on the battlefield, and the total number of people was only about twice that of Konoha. In this case, although Konoha had difficulty resisting, it was not impossible to turn defeat into victory. On the battlefield, Orochimaru's summoning beast Wanshi galloped freely in the field, and from time to time, he opened his mouth to swallow several people, looking satisfied. Those ninjutsu did not fall on him. At most, a few scales would be blown off, which seemed a bit painless. Seeing this, Orochimaru shouted softly and suddenly opened his mouth to spit out a large amount of water to wash the front. With the help of the water, Wanshi moved very fast, almost crossing the entire battlefield. At this moment, the field near Rock Shinobi and Cloud on the ground of the Shinobi side. Saplings suddenly emerged, growing in the wind, and almost in an instant, they grew into a forest, engulfing many ninjas and turning them into blood mud. It was Nawaki who seized the opportunity to launch the ultimate with style ninjutsu of the Tree World Birth, causing considerable damage to the locals. Seeing this scene, Senju Tobirama was very satisfied. Yes, Nawaki has also grown a lot. Ishigamihara just watched and did not make any comments. In his opinion, Nawaki still has a long way to go in with style. The forest created by the Tree World Birth only occupies a small half of the battlefield. It did cause considerable damage, but compared with the total number of enemies on the battlefield, it was still nothing. It seems that the people of Rock Shinobi and Cloud Shinobi should be impatient. Ishigamihara said this, but his eyes were always focused on the battlefield. His role is very simple. That is, to wait for the local strategic forces to appear before taking action, and then defeat the enemy in one fell swoop. And then you can achieve the final victory. The plan looks simple, and it is not difficult, but it depends on who will carry out this task. If it is someone else, even if they participate in this decisive battle, whether they can survive is a problem, and only Ishigamihara can take on the responsibility. I hope Fongaheshu will not die in this battle. Ishigamihara said this, smiling slightly. He brought the two to the front line, and they were now in the meat grinder in front, but Ishigamihara never thought of protecting them. There are some things Ishigamihara can do, but he can't do. The two are considered elites of the Ishigami clan, but they are still far from the real elites of Konoha. They must go through the tempering of blood and fire to be truly talented. As for the two who died in this battle, it can only mean that they were destined to be like this, and Ishigamihara would not be too sad. If you want a master power, you must pay something. This is an eternal truth. Boom! Suddenly, two strong waves of chakra rushed to the battlefield from two directions, and the roar continued wherever they passed. Boil-style steam rushes in. Hualala! A white smoke came from far to near, like a cannonball, rushing directly into the battlefield. Wherever it passed, people and horses fell to the ground cracked, and even a strong wind blew everything around. It was a red figure rushing into the wood-style forest in one breath, and then a huge amount of white steam suddenly burst out, and for a moment, it was like a hurricane passing through. The roar of the explosion resounded through the world, and countless trees were torn into fragments and powder and flew out in all directions at a very fast speed. Lariat! Another loud shout. In another direction, a figure rushed into the battlefield as fast as thunder, directly into the Konoha side, and wherever it passed was a bloody storm. Two people, two huge chakra sources. Feeling these two fluctuations, Ishigamihara narrowed his eyes slightly. Here it comes, Senju Tobarama said. No hurry. Ishigamihara's expression remained calm. We can't wait any longer. The ninjas of Konoha can't hold on for too long. Those two guys are obviously planning to wipe out all the people of Konoha, Senju Tobarama said in a deep voice. Ishigamihara was unmoved and didn't even speak. Damn it, what are you thinking? Senju Tobarama said angrily. At this moment, the corners of Ishigamihara's mouth curled up. Almost as he spoke, Ishigamihara stood up, holding the short blade on his waist with one hand, and his figure flashed, and he rushed towards the battlefield like lightning. In the battlefield, more shouts and killings came from outside the battlefield. Coming from two directions, gradually gathering together, countless figures appeared and rushed to the battlefield together. Feeling all this, Kongbu's smile became more and more obvious. Sure enough, whether it is Rock Shinobi or Cloud Shinobi, they really intend to defeat the enemy with one blow, and this time they have brought most of their men. As he spoke, Ishigamihara was less than 300 meters away from the battlefield. Then, the fun begins. On the battlefield, when Konoha heard the shouts of killing, the faces of the ninjas suddenly changed. Even Orochimaru was shocked and turned his head and shouted, "Send a signal. Quick!" Yes, a ninja was about to take action, but at this time, a light shout was heard in the field, and it was clearly heard by everyone. In the center of the battlefield, in the blank area just opened up by Rock Shinobi Jinchuriki, a person appeared at some point, pressing his hands on the ground, and the ground under his feet seemed to be half alive and surging, and the figure of this person also fluctuated with it. It was Ishigamihara, Earth-style stone Buddha technique. Bang, bang, bang. The earth was churning, and then he saw Ishigamihara's figure quickly rose. Countless mud and stones gathered under his feet, and as the ground rolled, a huge head popped out. Then came the shoulders, arms, waist, abdomen, and legs. Boom! In just a few breaths, a huge stone and earth giant stood in the middle of the battlefield. 091, the tailed beasts run wild on the battlefield sure, describes the sound made when stones collide. Buddha, also known as pagoda, The two together form a giant stone Buddha. At this moment, a stone Buddha with a height of more than 100 meters appeared on the battlefield. The stone Buddha was made of broken stones and soil. He sat in a dhyana posture, with a solemn appearance and a solemn demeanor. The lotus platform under the seat was clearly visible, and the treasure wheel behind him was simple in shape. As soon as the stone Buddha appeared, the battlefield was quiet. Whether it was the rock shinobi and cloud shinobi side, or the Konoha side, everyone's eyes were focused on the stone Buddha, especially on the top of Ishigamihara's head. Ishigamihara stood on the top of the stone Buddha, with his hands around his chest, looking down at the entire battlefield from a high position, with a calm expression. In his mind, Senju Tobarama was already shocked and asked, "What bed is it?" As you can see, it's just an ordinary Earth-style ninjutsu. How was it possible? Normal Earth-style can't reach this level. This is comparable to my 217 wood-style wooden golem jutsu. How can it be an ordinary Earth-style ninjutsu? Ishigamihara smiled and explained, normal Earth-style naturally can't reach this level. In fact, this jutsu is what I developed for the wooden golem jutsu. It can also be regarded as adding some background to the right upper clan. Ishigamihara didn't lie, and it was true. In fact, the Ishigami clan is not without heritage, but the jutsu they inherited is relatively ordinary in the eyes of other ninja clans, and the best of the Ishigami clan's heritage is Earth-style. However, these Earth-style ninjutsu are indeed not that good, and the strongest ninjutsu is only B-level. Ishigamihara naturally learned these Earth-style ninjutsu. Feeling that the Ishigami clan did not have enough foundation, he thought of adding foundation to the Ishigami clan. The foundation naturally needs to match the conditions of the Ishigami clan. With the wooden golem jutsu, Ishigamihara naturally knew how to do it. It was only natural that he brought the nature transformation of the Earth-style to an extremely high level, and combined it with Ishigamihara's own amazing chakra, and created this Buddha technique. Of course, this is for Ishigamihara, and in the eyes of others, this technique has already made people lose their desire to fight. At this moment, most people on a battlefield have this idea. The giant Buddha over 100 meters tall, not to mention standing upright, just standing here, gives everyone a huge sense of oppression. Faced with this situation, normal ninjas don't know how to act. Since Ishigamihara has taken action, he will not give these people any time to react. As soon as he thinks about it, the giant Buddha raises his hand and slaps the ground in front of him. F. Run away. Damn it. Everyone had different reactions. Konoha was extremely happy, while Rock Shinobi and Cloud Shinobi's faces suddenly changed. As for the grass, no one cared. The battlefield immediately became chaotic. Rock Shinobi and Cloud Shinobi ran fast, but the stone Buddha's palm slapped even faster. Boom! In just a moment, the stone Buddha's giant palm slapped the ground, and the strong pressure it brought was like a strong wind. The ground touched by the giant palm rolled up the soil, and the gravel splashed everywhere. The ground seemed to be cracking. Ah, no! The screams rang out instantly. I don't know how many enemies died in this one, and more turned into meat paced silently. Damn it! A roar came out, and a figure rushed out quickly in the steam, like a running arrow, and hit the stone Buddha's arm. This is a red figure, surrounded by hot steam, and the strong wind brought by the speed, with great force, fell on the arm of the stone Buddha. Boom! The muffled sound spread throughout the battlefield, and the expected break did not appear. The stone Buddha's arm was only slightly broken, and a lot of gravel and dirt fell. There was no change other than that. On the other hand, the man was directly bounced out at this moment, spinning in the air and falling to the ground far away, making another loud noise. Roar, roar, roar. Following that, another figure also jumped out from another place. He looked even more violent than a man just now. His body was burning with blood-red chakra flames, and there were even 3 chakra tails twisting behind him. The man stretched out his hand, and the palm formed by chakra quickly extended and enlarged. Almost in an instant, it became a huge palm with a diameter of more than 10 meters, and grabbed the arm of the stone Buddha. It was exactly the part that the man just hit. Do you have the confidence to deal with 2 Jinchuriki alone? Is it above my head? Senju Tobarama couldn't help asking in Ishigamihara's mind. Ishigamihara just smiled faintly, and he didn't see any movement, but the stone Buddha under him had already responded. The stone Buddha raised his hand, and his 5 fingers became claws, intending to grab the opponent's chakra hand in his hand. The next moment, the stone Buddha raised his hand suddenly, and Cloud Shinobi's Jinchuriki was thrown out directly and disappeared into the sky in an instant. After doing all this, Ishigamihara controlled the stone Buddha under him and put his hands together. Instantly, the battlefield centered on the stone Buddha began to surge, and then sharp earth spikes suddenly sprang out, as if they had spirits, avoiding all Konoha's ninjas and piercing through countless rock shinobi and cloud shinobi ninjas. Ah, damn it! Help! Save me! The shrill howls echoed in the battlefield. Almost immediately, a stone forest appeared in the entire battlefield. It was a stone forest composed of sharp earth spikes and stalagmites. It was dense and terrifying. Damn it! With a roar, the red figure leaped up again, and the blood-red flames also burned around his body. Behind him, there also appeared a long chakra tail, emitting terrible chakra fluctuations. Not only that, the red figure gradually condensed bones and flesh around his body, and his body expanded rapidly. In just a blink of an eye, a giant beast appeared in the field. It looked like a deer, with a head like a horse. The 5 long tails behind it swung, bringing terrible wind and air waves. Roar! The giant beast roared, lowered its head and opened its mouth, and then rushed towards the stone Buddha with terrible power. Roar, roar, roar! In another direction, a more violent roar was heard, but the blood red as the chakra exploded. A terrifying figure also appeared between heaven and earth. He had a bull head and a human body. His eyes were hollow, and his 8 long tails behind him smashed the ground, causing the ground to tremble. He exuded a wild and violent aura, carrying an ominous 5.9, and rushed towards the stone Buddha like crazy, destroying everything in his path. Retreat! Run! At this moment, both the enemy and the Konoha ninjas were horrified and chose to retreat and flee. Such a battlefield was no longer something they could participate in. If one was not careful, the aftermath of the battle between the 2 sides could easily kill people. A perfect Jinchuriki, a tailed beast running wild. Kid, you have to be careful, Senju Tobarama said in a deep voice. Don't worry. Ishigamihara's response was simple, and his expression did not change much. But the stone Buddha under him stood up directly, and the lotus platform under his feet began to decompose at this moment, and then turned into armor together with the treasure wheel behind him to wrap the stone Buddha. In just a blink of an eye, it has transformed into a huge armored warrior. How was the second form of this stone Buddha? Ishigamihara asked with a smile. Senju Tobarama was silent. 092 Clone Senju Tobarama. Roar! Roar, roar! The 2-tailed beasts, one from the east and one from the west, rushed towards Ishigamihara's stone warrior with amazing momentum, and the ground was rumbling under their feet. The stone warrior just stepped back, crouched slightly, put one hand forward, and then put it back, and made a special starting posture with his waist. Is this gentle fist method? Senju Tobarama was well-informed and immediately recognized this starting posture and was surprised. Ishigamihara just raised 2 fingers and smiled slightly. Try it. The next moment, the stone warrior rushed forward, the ground was cracked, and the distance between his body and 5 Tails Koku suddenly shortened. Roar! 5 Tails Koku roared, and the person above his head, who was called the Steam Ninja, had no expression on his face hidden under the mask. But 5 Tails Koku had already lowered his head and hit the right Takeda. Compared with 5 Tails Koku, the stone warrior was even taller than 5 Tails Koku, but overall it was smaller than 5 Tails Koku. The rough comparison was equivalent to a person of human size and a fierce horse. If a normal person was hit by a fierce horse, he would definitely be seriously injured. Under similar contrast, The results were not much different, but under the huge body of the stone warrior, he had extremely flexible movements. The stone warrior turned sideways and turned his body half a circle, just like avoiding the 5'11" tails. Koku's impact, and then the two palms slapped repeatedly, each of which was imprinted on 5 tails Koku's body. There are no acupuncture points on the tailed beasts, but under Ishigamihara's white eyes, he can still see special nodes one by one. Each palm of the stone warrior just hits on them, and for a while, 5 tails Koku's body trembles and roars continuously. Roar, roar, roar. As if stimulated by pain, 5 tails Koku's long tail swung, and suddenly shook its head and directly hit the waist of the stone warrior, knocking him off balance. Then the distance was pulled away, and under Ishigamihara's gaze, the nodes in 5 tails Koku's body suddenly changed, and the chakra stagnation that appeared after being slapped just now disappeared instantly. So that's it. It's worthy of being a chakra creature. It can change its own chakra state at will. Ishigamihara finally understood. However, at this time, the 8 tails Jaiki had already hit him from behind, and the stone warrior was even knocked dozens of meters away. Dozens of meters is an incredible height for normal people, but for the tailed beasts and the stone warrior, it is just a matter of lifting a foot. So the stone warrior just staggered, and then his body twisted slightly in the air, and he landed steadily. After landing, the stone warrior faced the 2-tailed beast's left and right pincer attacks, but did not retreat. Instead, he took a step forward and slapped his palms again, and his body was unexpectedly flexible. The 2-tailed beasts retreated continuously. Roar! The 2-tailed beasts roared continuously, and at some point they had a tacit understanding, lying on the sides of the stone warrior. 5 tails Koku opened his huge mouth and bit the stone warrior's arm directly. The calf hugged him around the waist. The next moment, 8 tails Jaiki opened his mouth, and there were various colored chakra quickly gathered, and tailed beast bomb quickly took shape. Boom, boom, boom. Almost in the blink of an eye, tailed beast bomb hit the stone warrior directly, and a violent explosion formed a mushroom cloud. The extremely strong impact turned into a strong wind blowing in all directions, destroying everything. The earth shook, the ground cracked, and the strong wind burst out with stone debris, a scene of destruction. In this situation, the stone warrior naturally had no chance of surviving. No matter how big the stone warrior was, it was just a single escape technique. Among them, Earth-style nature transformation achieved the ultimate performance, but it still had shortcomings compared to the tailed beasts. When Ishigamihara developed this technique, he had already anticipated this. The target was actually to compete with the top summoning beast-level combat power, so he was mentally prepared to be destroyed. Shoo! Ishigamihara rushed out of the explosion. Upon closer inspection, there was no dust on his body, and even his hair was not messy at all. Second generation, do you want to play with these 2-tailed beasts? Ishigamihara asked. What are you going to do? Senju Tobarama asked. Ishigamihara said, you don't have to resist. While speaking, Ishigamihara made a seal with one hand. Kakaka, a tree trunk grew out from behind him, and then gradually turned into a human form, until it completely became a person exactly like Ishigamihara, and then it broke away from the body. Would clone. The latter fell to the ground, his eyes slightly closed, and then opened his eyes. Is this? Would clone. It was obviously Ishigamihara's body, but the voice was Senju Tobarama's, and even his eyes were the same light red as Senju Tobarama's. How do you feel? Ishigamihara cast a look. Senju Tobarama clenched his fist, felt it slightly, and then nodded. Yes, the chakra is abundant, just a little less than in my heyday. Ishigamihara smiled and said, after all, it's just a clone, and I gave away half of my chakra. Second generation, please use it sparingly. He pointed at 5 tails Koku and said, you will return to the underworld after this time. Giving it to you is equivalent to the second generation making another contribution to the village. Senju Tobarama was a little surprised. Return to the underworld? I see. As he said that, Senju Tobarama's face became serious, and he said in a deep voice, little boy, don't do anything that harms Konoha. Ishigamihara just smiled and said nothing. Senju Tobarama knew that he could not do anything to Ishigamihara, and it was unknown whether the latter would listen to his advice. But he had said what he should say. After being silent for a long time, he actually had the opportunity to return to the world after death, and now he can fight again, which has already inspired Senju Tobarama. Therefore, Senju Tobarama didn't care about so much. The world belongs to the living, and he couldn't intervene too much, so he just ignored it. I'm on it. As soon as Senju Tobarama finished speaking, his figure disappeared from his spot. The next moment, 003 heard a light shout. Water-style water severing wave. Huel, Five Tails Koku, didn't even have time to react before one of his tails was cut off. Water-severing wave could cut off the roots of the sacred tree, so it was not difficult to cut off the tails of the tailed beasts. Roar, roar, roar. Five Tails Koku screamed to the sky, seeming to be in great pain, while the broken tail was still electrifying on the ground. Chakra was even separated from the broken part of Five Tails Koku's body, and it was directly connected to the broken tail on the ground, and it was connected again in almost a breath. TSK, what a difficult guy. Senju Tobarama landed and was about to make any move when a muffled sound came from his ears. Turning his head, he saw that Ishigamihara appeared above Eight Tails Jaiki's head at some point, in midair, with one foot raised high, like a giant axe, chopped down fiercely. Steel fist technique, Kai Li painful sky kick. The next moment, the giant axe-like foot fell down fiercely and chopped on Eight Tails Jaiki's head. 093 Super Wooden Golem Jutsu. The two sides are not proportional. Ishigamihara is not comparable to Eight Tails Jaiki in terms of single wheel volume, but with just this kick, Eight Tails Jaiki's head was knocked down, as if it had been hit by a heavy blow of equal mass, and its head fell to the ground with a bang. Boom! With a roar, water splashed on the ground, and a huge wave was raised in an instant. What is that? Senju Tobarama's eyes were stern, and he was quite surprised, because this was the strange power passed down from the ancestors of the Senju clan. It was a very advanced skill in the Senju clan, and there were not many clansmen who could really master it or even use it perfectly. But now this strange power was used by the kid in front of him, and, judging from its effect, it was obviously not just as simple as mastering it. Whoosh! A strong wind came from his ears, and Senju Tobarama's instinct formed after a long battle made him use the body flicker technique in an instant. As soon as his figure disappeared, a long tail was thrown at the place where he had just stopped. Bang! Amidst the muffled sound, another splash of water splashed up. Senju Tobarama didn't have time to think about it. His primary goal was to deal with the tailed beast first, so he couldn't afford to waste time. Senju Tobarama made seals with his hands, and then he actually created a clone beside him. Clone of clone. Hey, it actually works. Senju Tobarama was surprised, and then he felt himself, and was surprised to find that although he was Ishigamihara's wood-style clone, his internal organs were still there, even his brain. So that's it. Wood style is used to simulate these organs to extract chakra, an amazing bed. At this point, Senju Tobarama knew the difference between this wood clone and his elder brother Senju Hashirama's wood clone. The eldest brother Senju Hashirama's wood clone cannot do this because it is just a clone, but Ishigamihara's wood clone has the functions of a normal life form and can even absorb the natural energy from the outside world and convert it into physical energy and then combine it with spiritual energy to form chakra. Senju Tobarama had similar ideas about this technology before, but he never put in the effort to study it because he knew that this technology was difficult to succeed, but he never thought that it was actually accomplished by Ishigamihara. In this way, there are more ways to deal with the enemy. The two Senju Tobarama looked at each other. They still had Ishigamihara's appearance, but they both saw smiles on each other's faces. Then they formed seals at the same time, and then their bodies quickly dispersed. Water-style water dragon continuous bomb. Two high-pitched dragon roars sounded, and two water dragons shot out from the water, with a diameter of 6 or 7 meters and a length of about 60 or 70 meters, and then entangled with Five Tails. Five Tails Koku struggled, but the two water dragons entangled its four hooves, making it difficult for it to break free. At this time, the two Senju Tobarama appeared on the left and right and flew to the top of Five Tails Koku's head at the same time. Water-style water severing wave. It was water severing wave again, but this time it was not the tail that was to be cut, but Five Tails Koku. The Jin Hatsune above Koku's head. The latter did not dare to take any chances at this time, and his body quickly sank into the body of the tailed beast and disappeared. But two extremely fast water streams had already hit his head, causing his head to fall down instantly, and even two penetrating wounds appeared on the top of his head. Roar, roar, roar. It must be said that the vitality of the tailed beast is strong. Even such injuries are not a big deal for the tailed beast. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Five Tails Koku finally broke free from the restraints of the two water dragons, and his huge body twisted and moved sideways, and with a loud bang, he jumped dozens of meters away. Then Five Tails Koku opened his mouth, and Chakra gathered rapidly, and the tailed beast bomb was formed in almost the blink of an eye. Swish! Whoosh! The tailed beast bomb shot out and went straight to the two clones of Senju Tobarama. At this moment, Senju Tobarama and the clone were on the same line, about to face the bombing of the tailed beast bomb. But Senju Tobarama was not panicked at all. His clone disappeared instantly. This time it was not body flicker technique, but Flying Thunder God. The real body of Senju Tobarama, that is the Ishigamihara would clone controlled by Senju Tobarama, quickly formed seals with both hands at this time. Flying Thunder God. Then, Tailed Beast Bomb arrived. The Tailed Beast Bomb, which was still fierce a second ago, disappeared in front of Senju Tobarama the next moment. In another part of the battlefield, Ishigamihara, who was fighting with Eight Tails Jaiki, raised his eyebrows, flashed, and appeared beside Eight Tails Jaiki. Sure enough, at the moment when Ishigamihara dodged, a violent explosion appeared on the other side of Eight Tails Jaiki. Boom! The blazing light burst out, and the terrifying shock wave swept the earth again. The water-style lake that had just formed disappeared directly at this moment and turned into Tsutsumi Mizuki. Eight Tails Jaiki, who was hit by Tailed Beast Bomb head-on, screamed to the sky at this time, looking very painful. There is no doubt that Tailed Beast Bomb cannot kill the Tailed Beast. Even if Eight Tails Jaiki was hit by Tailed Beast Bomb, the bomb hit him head-on and only left a lot of scars on his body. These scars quickly disappeared with the outflow of chakra, as if they had never appeared. Far away, the ninjas of Konoha had already evacuated. Orochimaru, the tailed beast, was standing on a boulder, looking at the battlefield from afar, with Nawaki beside him. It's amazing Harakuen fighting against two tailed beasts alone, and still being in the upper hand. I can't imagine it. Nawaki also looked at the battle in the distance, and felt his mind wavering and shocked. When can I reach this level? Hara, that guy, can suppress two tailed beasts without even using with style. How good is he? This question is not only what he wants to ask, but also what other ninjas who saw this scene want to ask. The battle in the field is still going on, and it becomes more crazy as the aftermath of the tailed beast bomb explosion dissipates. On the Five Tails Koku side, two figures appear and disappear from time to time. Each appearance must be accompanied by an attack, mostly water style, and from time to time, there will be explosions of detonating talismans, especially when Five Tails Koku is careless and is sealed once. The explosion of the detonating talisman on his body has never disappeared. On the other side, the battle between Ishigamihara and Eight Tails Jaiki is much simpler. Ishigamihara seems small compared to the huge body of the tailed beast, but he is extremely agile and avoids Eight Tails again and again. Jaiki's attack, even at one point, was cut off by Ishigamihara's brilliant blade. Time passed in a flash, about a quarter of an hour. Almost. On the battlefield, Ishigamihara suddenly appeared beside Senju Tobarama. Got Zhao. The latter's chakra was almost gone at this moment, and Five Tails Koku still had detonating talismans exploding on his body. Is that the tandem paper bombs technique? Ishigamihara asked. Senju Tobarama nodded. It's a very powerful technique, Ishigamihara exclaimed, and then said, Is there anything I need to tell the village leaders? Senju Tobarama thought about it, but still shook his head. Well then, Ishigamihara smiled and said, then let's take a last look at wood style. After that, he put his hands together. Wood style, super wooden golem jutsu. Boom! The ground beneath Ishigahara's feet suddenly cracked, and the trees grew rapidly, entangled with each other, and then quickly turned into a taller wooden golem. When this wooden golem took shape, it was more than 200 meters tall. Compared with it, the two-tailed beasts were like small beasts beside an adult's legs, and they looked much smaller. This level of wood style. Senju Tobarama was right next to Ishigamihara. Seeing this scene, his pupils shrank. 094, counterattack. Counterattack. Well, what do you think of the super wooden golem jutsu, the upgraded wooden golem with increased chakra, second generation? Ishigamihara asked. As he spoke, the giant wooden golem had raised its hand and grabbed Five Tails Koku's neck while he was screaming. No matter how he struggled, he couldn't get rid of the giant hand. Senju Tobarama didn't know how to describe this scene. Ishigamihara said, of course, I believe Shodai can also perform this level of wooden golem, but it's not necessary. Now I can't do the true secret of wood style, such as the true several thousand hands. Senju Tobarama couldn't help but look at Ishigamihara more, with a strange look in his eyes. On the other side, feeling the pressure of the huge wooden golem, Eight Tails Jaiki turned around and was about to escape in another direction. Two Jinchuriki, one perfect Jinchuriki, and the other in a rampage state. The former is Five Tails Koku. Rock Shinobi is good at Jinchuriki. Even this Steam Ninja is the same as the Four Tails Jinchuriki, and is a perfect Jinchuriki. On the contrary, Cloud Shinobi is very strong, but the environment in the village is extremely unfriendly to Jinchuriki. So, Eight Tails Jaiki is not a perfect Jinchuriki, at least not at this point in time. Seeing Senju Tobarama frowning, Ishigamihara smiled and said, don't worry, I have developed another wood style. While speaking, he put his hands together and shouted softly, wood style super laughing Buddha jutsu. The next moment, the ground cracked where Eight Tails Jaiki ran away, and the trees twisted like vines, growing rapidly, and then turned into huge palms, extending rapidly, and grabbed towards Eight Tails Jaiki. If it were just that, it would be fine. The real shocker was the wood-style palms. Each palm was more than 40 meters wide. One or two would be fine, but the number of these palms was hundreds. Palms emerged from the ground in all directions, one after another like long snakes. Some grabbed Eight Tails' tails, some directly wrapped around them, and some even blocked Eight Tails Jaiki's mouth, making it unable to condense tailed beast bomb. Ow! Ishigamihara asked again. You are very powerful. When Senju Tobarama said this, there was no falsehood at all, but sincerity. Beck, at the age of more than 12, he could do this. Even his elder brother Senju Hashirama could not do it at this age. The talent visible to the naked eye has been exaggerated to overflowing. If such a boy grows up, Senju Tobarama dare not imagine how far Ishigamihara will go in the future. Please rest assured and leave Konoha to me, Ishigamihara said directly. Senju Tobarama frowned, but seemed to have thought of something, and then his brows relaxed. These are no longer my concerns. Hearing this, it was Ishigamihara's turn to be surprised. Someone who could develop a forbidden technique like impure world reincarnation should not say such a thing. However, Ishigamihara did not think much about it, but just nodded slightly, and then his expression became relaxed. Then, goodbye, second generation. Goodbye. Senju Tobarama savored this sentence, shook his head slightly, and without Ishigamihara doing anything, stared at Ishigamihara, and then untied the clone on his own. Bang! A burst of white smoke exploded, and the wood clone belonging to Ishigamihara turned into a wooden stake and fell to the ground. Seeing this, Ishigamihara smiled again. He didn't mind Senju Tobarama staying with him for a while longer, and even wanted him to see his other research. But after this war, he would have to confront the Konoha high-level officials, and then Senju Tobarama's existence would be a trouble. So, at this point, Ishigamihara simply let Senju Tobarama leave. Fortunately, Senju Tobarama took the initiative to leave otherwise. If Senju Tobarama didn't want to, it might take some effort. Being able to develop impure world reincarnation shows that Senju Tobarama's attainments in the way of the soul are definitely not comparable to others. It is possible that there will be some hidden dangers over time. In this regard, Ishigamihara will not underestimate Senju Tobarama. Shaking his head, Ishigamihara stopped thinking about it, and then exhaled slightly and split another clone. After the latter appeared, he took a sealing scroll from Ishigamihara and went directly to Eight Tails Jaiki. Then the main body and the clone made seals at the same time, opened the scroll, and took out the sealed things. Two large jars of different appearances. One had sealed 4 tails before, and the other had never been used. Sealing the tailed beast was already a piece of cake for Ishigamihara, and the whole process did not need much explanation. It was completed very easily. During this process, the Konoha shinobi who were far away from the battlefield came back and looked up at the lofty Ishigamihara, and everyone was shocked in their hearts. Such a tall wooden golem, as well as the means to deal with the tailed beasts and Jinchuriki, and the result of sealing them easily now, all show the power of Ishigamihara. Almost everyone was happy that the village had a younger generation like Ishigamihara, which meant that the village would be stronger in the future. Some people even said that Ishigamihara was the hope for Konoha's prosperity and saw the shadow of the first generation in him. Hara. At this time, Nawaki's shout made everyone come back to their senses, and then there was a tsunami of cheers. We won! Hara-sama. That's awesome, Hara-sama. Ha ha ha. Konoha won. Unconsciously, in terms of addressing, most people treated Ishigamihara as a superior and used honorifics. No one thought there was anything wrong with it, because strength represents identity and status. This is the rule of the ninja world. Ishigamihara looked around and then raised his arm and shouted, "Everyone, it's time for us to counterattack. Counterattack. Yes, counterattack them. Kill them. Counterattack. Counterattack." The shouts changed immediately, and almost everyone looked at Ishigamihara with fanaticism. Everyone believed that with Ishigamihara's presence, they would definitely win. Now is undoubtedly the best time to attack. Lord Orochimaru, Ishigamihara said loudly, "Give the order." In any case, the commander-in-chief of the front line is Orochimaru, and Ishigamihara will naturally not do anything beyond his authority at this time. Orochimaru also looked up at Ishigamihara, grinned when he heard the words, licked his cracked lips with his tongue, and a trace of eagerness appeared on his face. "Okay, everyone listen up. Counterattack Cloud Shinobi." It's Cloud Shinobi instead of Rock Shinobi, because in this war, Cloud Shinobi's losses from beginning to end are very small. At this time, Cloud Shinobi must be picked as the main target, so that the situation can be made clearer and easier. In an instant, the battlefield was filled with fanatical roars, and someone rushed out immediately. 095 Red Devil. Run away, it's the Red Devil. In a forest, the encounter between the squads that was supposed to break out turned into a one-sided pursuit. There was only one person on the pursuit side, a young man with long red hair and delicate features. He was wearing an ordinary Konoha vest, but his figure was more slender and well-proportioned. The overall look was definitely charming and could not be ignored. But even such a young man was the one that the enemy would abandon the mission and run away without hesitation when they met him. The reason was not complicated, just because this person was called the Red Devil by the enemy on the battlefield. The full name was the Red Devil of Konoha. This name was naturally derogatory. The enemy called it a devil to describe it as more vicious. But unfortunately, whether this name was derogatory or not, it could not stop his reputation on the battlefield, because this person was Ishigamihara. At this moment, it was February of the 40th year of Konoha. It was already spring, and there was no snow on the battlefield. But the spring breeze could not take away the chill that accompanied the city of Shankong. A 4-member Cloud Shinobi team, led by a Chunin and 3 Chunin members, could be considered an elite team anywhere. But even such an elite team did not have the courage to fight when facing Ishigamihara, and fled in the forest with fear on their faces. At this time, more than 3 months had passed since Ishigamihara stepped into the battlefield again. Ishigamihara was 13 years old and had grown a little taller, but the overall change was not big. In this battlefield, Ishigamihara's reputation spread to every corner, and no one could ignore his existence. Since Ishigamihara defeated the Rock Shinobi and Cloud Shinobi coalition on the battlefield, the situation on the battlefield has completely changed, and Konoha has taken the absolute initiative. Because the tailed beasts of the two villages were sealed by Ishigamihara alone, his ability is, needless to say, almost becoming the Rock Shinobi. Shinobi's nightmare. Therefore, Rock Shinobi has completely retreated and is now busy discussing with Konoha about the release of Jinchuriki. The negotiation team has already gone to Konoha several times, but Konoha has not fully agreed. Strictly speaking, Rock Shinobi has accepted the result of the defeat in the war, but before the two Jinchuriki return, they still insist that the war is not over, because Rock Shinobi knows very well that if they admit defeat, it will be even more difficult to get the two Jinchuriki back. Another point is that the truce conditions set by Konoha are very harsh, which Rock Shinobi cannot end no matter what. As for why this happened, it was only because Ishigamihara asked Orochimaru to bring back a scroll, which contained some of his views on Rock Shinobi. The key point is the conditions for ending the war. In other words, it was the conditions set by Ishigamihara that made Rock Shinobi couldn't accept it, and the village leaders simply took this condition as the benchmark. The reason why the village leaders made this choice was that Ishigamihara's reputation could no longer be suppressed. It was really because Ishigamihara's achievements here were too amazing. It can almost be said that he single-handedly suppressed Rock Shinobi and Cloud Shinobi. In this case, even if the village leaders had other ideas, they couldn't do it during the war because their role in Hara was too critical. Therefore, Rock Shinobi could only choose to delay, and its personnel had already withdrawn from the grass country and retreated to the border of the grass country, just to make a show. On the other hand, the situation on Cloud Shinobi's side was much more complicated. Cloud Shinobi was a real fighting faction, and the martial arts environment in the village was strong, which resulted in their greater ambitions. Even if Eight Tails Jaiki is sealed now, they are unwilling to admit defeat to Konoha. In this way, on the one hand, Cloud Shinobi is also negotiating with Konoha to return Jinchuriki, and on the other hand, it is constantly causing trouble for Konoha on the battlefield. Since Konoha cannot be defeated in a direct war, it is better to go into the dark, not seeking victory, as long as it can cause trouble to Konoha. The result is that Konoha has to continue to invest energy in this battlefield to deal with the troubles brought by Cloud Shinobi. As the deputy commander of the front line, Ishigamihara naturally took on the burden of the commander-in-chief after Orochimaru returned to the village. He is different from the previous commander-in-chief. Because the pressure on the front line has been reduced, a lot of people have been transferred away, and there are only about 100 people left here. Ishigamihara directly handed over the management of the camp to an elite genin of the Nara family, and he went out from time to time to cause trouble for some Cloud Shinobi ninjas. It is not Ishigamihara is not idle, but he is preparing materials for some of his experiments. The material is very simple, just the enemy's blood. This kind of thing can only be collected on the battlefield. As for what kind of experiment is it? To put it bluntly, it is still related to blood inheritance. Even in the battlefield, Ishigamihara did not relax his research on blood inheritance. Only he knew what blood inheritance really represented. It was an extension of the power called Tsutsuki, which was related to the possibility of entering the starry sky. So naturally, there would be no slackness in this regard. The result is obvious. Ishigamihara's name of the Red Devil became more and more famous, so much so that later, even a tough person like Cloud Shinobi gave the ninja an order to abandon the mission directly if they met Ueyama Yasushi. In the forest, Cloud Shinobi Jinin fled frantically and even ignored the safety of his 3 subordinates. At this time, he no longer cared about anything else and just wanted to escape from the pursuit of the Red Devil. Just after crossing a thick log and before he could land, a voice came to his ear. "Where do you want to go?" The voice was very calm, like a stranger's question, but it was this voice that made Cloud Shinobi Jinin feel cold all over. Without any hesitation, Cloud Shinobi Jinin swung his Chunin sword horizontally, and the trend was to roll to the side. The slash missed. Cloud Shinobi Jinin felt this, and his heart tightened instantly. "Are you looking for me?" The voice appeared again, still in his ear. In this horror movie-like atmosphere, Cloud Shinobi Jinin's forehead was sweating, and his body couldn't help but tremble slightly. He saw a touch of red floating in his peripheral vision, and Cloud Shinobi Jinin was slightly surprised. "What is that?" As soon as this thought came up, Cloud Shinobi Jinin felt a slight chill on his neck. "Is this my blood?" Cloud Shinobi Jinin couldn't help but widen his eyes, and then a delicate face appeared in his sight, smiling at him slightly. "So it's you, little mouse." Cloud Shinobi Jinin felt weak all over, as if all his strength had left him. He fell to his knees with a thud, and then collapsed to the ground with convulsions. "It's really hard to find." While speaking, Ishigamihara had turned around, holding a small glass bottle in his hand, and the bottle was filled with bright red blood. After covering the bottle cap, Ishigamihara walked forward. In the last remaining consciousness of Cloud Shinobi Jinin, he could only see Ishigamihara's back walking forward, getting smaller and darker, and his consciousness completely fell into darkness. Ishigamihara put the small glass bottle into his arms and nodded slightly. "There are still 3 more copies of Jinin's blood. Let's go look for it somewhere else." As for the 3 Chunin, Ishigamihara didn't pay any attention to them, because they were not the goal of his trip. 096 New Bloodline. Violent escape. Now the entire battlefield has become Ishigamihara's hunting ground. No one can escape his pursuit wherever he is. The name of the Red Devil resounds throughout the battlefield and has become the nightmare of countless ninjas on the Cloud Shinobi side. Find a friend, find a friend, find a big friend. Ishigamihara hummed an inexplicable tune and searched the entire battlefield with a leisurely posture, as if he was relaxing in a spring outing. But the people he was chasing were worried and anxious all day long. Quietly, Ishigamihara came to the side of the grass country near the eastern border, which is the area where Cloud Shinobi ninjas are more concentrated. It was because after the last battle, Rock Shinobi and Cloud Shinobi were defeated, and Cloud Shinobi chose the same approach as Rock Shinobi and withdrew the camp outside the border of the grass country. Generally, there are the most Cloud Shinobi ninjas here, and it is also the Cloud Shinobi's road. The chance of finding Cloud Shinobi Jinin here is much higher. "Hey, I'm here." Ishigamihara's mouth curled up and smiled, which was very nice. In his perception, a ninja team was heading towards the border of the grass country, obviously evacuating. I don't know if it was because they knew about his appearance. Anyway, it looked a bit like running away. Ishigamihara encountered this situation many times and didn't feel surprised. Soon, Ishigamihara came to the area where the Cloud Shinobi team was, hiding in the dark, and saw the other 4 people. 1 leader Jinin, 3 Chunin, the same configuration as the team encountered before, and they were also the elite of Cloud Shinobi. Obviously, the Cloud Shinobi side invested a lot of power here, but Ishigamihara couldn't understand the Cloud Shinobi side's persistence. In his opinion, such harassment was completely meaningless. "Captain, is that Red Devil really that powerful?" a Chunin in the team asked, obviously doubting the rumors. The leader Jinin was a middle-aged man with dark skin and a beard on his face. He frowned even more tightly when he heard this. "Don't ask such nonsense. That's the Red Devil. We are unwilling to defeat him. Whenever you meet him, you only need to remember one thing." "What is it?" "Try to run away. The faster and farther the better." After the beard Jinin finished speaking, he said in a serious tone, "I have met him on the battlefield. It was a long distance away, but that kind of power is definitely not comparable to ninjas like us." He appeared on the front battlefield and participated in that battle. He saw the battle with the stone Buddha and the process of the super large wooden golem subduing the 2-tailed beasts. He naturally understood that the power was not something that ordinary ninjas could contend with. It was from that time that he developed a fear of Ishigamihara, and this fear accompanied every mission. "Thank you for the compliment." Ishigamihara's voice suddenly appeared in the ears of the four people. Before the three Chnins could react, the face of the bearded Jnin suddenly changed. Run! Quick! Without any hesitation, the bearded Jnin's speed increased suddenly, and electric sparks flashed on his body. In a crackling sound, the bearded Jnin had rushed out nearly 100 meters, as if a flash of lightning flashed and disappeared. Not bad speed. Ishigamihara's voice still appeared in the ears of the bearded Jnin, and the latter's face had turned pale, obviously because of fear. The manifestation of extreme fear is madness. The bearded Jnin knew that he would not be able to escape. Electric sparks flickered on his body, and he attacked the source of the sound like a madman. Lightning style, Nine Madara. Sizzle. A lightning-like light suddenly burst out, spreading around it. The lightning in the head was like thunder, striking towards the original sound on the cloth. Crack! The thick wood was split and exploded, but there was no one there. Ishigamihara had never appeared at that location. As expected of Cloud Shinobi, the lightning-style ninjutsu is really beautiful. This is the first time I have seen this lightning style. It must be at least an A-level ninjutsu, right? It imitates the lightning in nature and uses the air as a conductor. It is really a good idea. For Ishigamihara, ordinary ninjutsu can be learned naturally after understanding it. You should not be an unknown person in Cloud Shinobi Village. Do you need me to remember your name? Ishigamihara said again. The bearded Jnin turned pale and his expression was distorted, but he made a seal again without any hesitation. Lightning style, Raimono light flow. But hissing, he saw countless lightning burst out from his body, and the whole person was like an electric man. He turned around and attacked Ishigamihara's voice. This time, the bearded Jnin saw Ishigamihara. The latter was standing next to a thick tree, with his arms around his chest, just looking at him leisurely. I got you. The bearded Jnin stared at Ishigamihara with a ferocious face. His eyes were full of lightning, and there was murderous intent and undetectable joy in them. But the next moment, Ishigamihara disappeared in his eyes. A ninjutsu that kills both you and your enemy? That's a bit too extreme. You can't do that. If you roast yourself, your blood will be useless. That would be a waste. The voice once again appeared in the ears of the bearded Jnin, who was startled. But the next moment, he saw his chest split open, and a crack appeared in his heart. Blood spurted out instantly, and all the strength in his body seemed to disappear. He had just taken a step and had not yet stood firm, but his body had already softened, and he was thrown out by inertia. DB. The bearded Jnin lay on the ground, without any strength. Not bad, not bad. What's your name? Ishigamihara asked. As he spoke, he had already collected the man's blood. The bearded man barely said this sentence. Saloi, I'll remember you. After Ishigamihara finished speaking, Saloi heard footsteps getting farther and farther away from him, and his vision became darker and darker. Sorry, Killer Bee, I can't go back. Finally, Saloi's mind was completely silent. At this time, Ishigamihara had already left here to find the next prey. In the Konoha camp, in Ishigamihara's exclusive laboratory, the electric light was bright, illuminating the entire laboratory. Ishigamihara was seen glowing all over, with countless electric sparks flashing, making him look like Thor. He clenched his fists slightly, feeling his own surging strength and the extremely active cell activity, and nodded slightly. Finally completed, a brand new bloodline that has never appeared in the Ninja World Rage release. 097 experience points increased. It is a violent escape technique, not an explosion style. The latter is a special escape technique for explosions. Many rock shinobi have mastered it. It is powerful and can be called the king of firepower on the battlefield, especially the rock shinobi's explosion style team, which is famous in the ninja world. The violent escape technique is a new bloodline developed by Ishigamihara based on Cloud Shinobi's lightning style, inspired by Cloud Shinobi's lightning style chakra mode. The main function of lightning style chakra mode is to stimulate body cells to achieve the effects of speed increase and strength increase. It is Cloud Shinobi's secret. Even in the entire love, it is still famous. After fighting with Cloud Shinobi for so long, Ishigamihara naturally encountered many ninjas who can use lightning-style chakra mode. The best of them can even develop their own lightning-style chakra mode. Although there are some differences, the basic functions are the same. In Ishigamihara's opinion, the effect of lightning-style chakra mode is very good, and the concept is correct, and Ishigamihara is naturally ready to use this concept. So after understanding the principle of lightning-style chakra mode, Ishigamihara quickly mastered it, but also found its drawbacks. That is, lightning-style chakra mode has a very poor effect on his existence. Although it is not completely ineffective, it cannot obtain a qualitative gain. As a result, Ishigamihara is naturally dissatisfied, so he wants to develop a special technique based on this. But in the end, Ishigamihara thinks that it is better to develop a new bloodline limit than to develop a technique. After all, it is difficult to master a technique, and it also requires a process of performing the technique, but the bloodline can be used directly, at least for Ishigamihara. In this way, the violent way that softens the lightning style and water style appeared. The violent escape is based on the lightning style, adding the unique softness of the water style chakra to neutralize the explosion and destructiveness of the lightning style, and actually reaches a level of explosion without breaking, which can act on the flesh cells and even strengthen the flesh. In an open space outside the camp, Ishigamihara stood in the center, closed his eyes slightly for a moment, and when he opened his eyes again, his body was surrounded by electric light. His eyes were even more blazing white, and there were flashes of electricity from time to time. With a slight sound, Ishigamihara's figure disappeared, and when he reappeared, he was already outside the field, and his speed was so fast that it was difficult to distinguish with the naked eye. The next moment, a flash of electric light flew in the field, just like lightning, changing directions in various directions, and sometimes the angle of change became an acute angle. There was only a slight friction sound in the air in the field, and Ishigamihara's figure had already become one, and appeared in the field almost at the same time. As a result, the field was full of Ishigamihara's figure and electric light, as if the entire open space was half covered by electric light. Swish! There was another light sound, and Ishigamihara appeared again on the field, bowing slightly, frowning and looking at his hands. Unfortunately, it is still a little short of what I imagined. The violent escape is very strong, with swift-style speed, and also has the ability to control lightning with storm escape. The former is a combination of the two chakra attributes of water and wind, while the latter is also a combination of the two chakras of thunder and water. But the violent escape is different from the storm escape. As long as the effect is still concentrated on the body, strengthening the body is the primary, and controlling lightning is secondary. Also formed by the fusion of thunder and water chakra. With different focuses, the reason why Ishigamihara did not develop storm escape, but developed the violent escape. The real difference lies in the difference in the water attribute chakra nature transformation. A little difference has caused a huge difference in the result. The combination of chakra is really varied, which makes Ishigamihara feel unknown. In the field, the electric light around Ishigamihara suddenly solidified. Yes, it is a solidification visible to the naked eye. The electric light should have flashed and disappeared, but at this moment, it was like a solid substance fixed on Ishigamihara's body. Then saw Ishigamihara stretched out his hands, put his palms together, and then released them, and a long sword made entirely of lightning appeared in his palms. It can't be called a long sword, but a more accurate description is that it should be a cluster of lightning, which was caught in Ishigamihara's hand with a real touch, just like a physical object. The water attribute chakra nature transformation has led to the successful shaping of lightning style, and the means of attack of the violent escape are no longer lacking. In Ishigamihara's conception, the violent escape can improve the physical fitness of the ninja to the limit, which is a personal limit. Then, with the help of the lightning control method of the violent escape, it can achieve a very strong attack effect. If the storm escape is the blood limit of the ninjutsu flow, then the violent escape is the physical escape, and the two have their own merits. In this way, Ishigamihara was quite satisfied with the effect of the violent escape. As soon as he thought about it, a panel appeared in front of him with various data listed in great detail. Sleep 4193/5000. IV 3. Fast sleep, deep sleep a dream. Wash 6028/1000. IV 4. Decontamination, cleansing, beautification, fairy-like appearance. Eating 13179/15,000. IV 5. Fast digestion, enhanced taste buds, iron teeth, and copper teeth, stomach like a furnace, swallowing everything. Exercise 5046/1000. IV 4. Strengthen the body, strengthen the bones and muscles, recover quickly, and be active. Learning 6327/1000. IV 4. Photographic memory, enhanced comprehension, analogy, insight into the essence. Scientific research 1791/2000. IV 2. Precise operation, flash of inspiration. Cooking 1079/2058000. IV 2. Delicious supplement. Handicraft 539/1000. IV 1. Dexterity. Combat 393/1000. IV 1. Enhanced intuition. Teaching 961/1000. IV 1. Teaching students in accordance with their aptitude. All aspects have increased significantly. Among them, Chinese learning, scientific research, and teaching have grown the fastest. There is no need to say more about scientific research. In the process of developing violent escape, the experience growth will not be slow. Such a result is also growth. Learning is because of being deep in the battlefield and encountering various cloud shinobi, no matter how strong or weak, can always learn something new from each other, which is why such a result is achieved. On the contrary, the growth of teaching surprised Ishigamihara. In addition to the daily teaching of Nawaki, wood style, more experience points come from other Konoha shinobi asking him for advice. Ishigamihara never hesitates to impart knowledge. Even if he cannot directly teach powerful ninjutsu due to the rules of the village, he can teach ordinary ninjutsu. Or when others ask for advice on ninjutsu and taijutsu techniques, Ishigamihara can give guidance through easy-to-understand words, so that people can gain enlightenment and make considerable gains. As a result, almost everyone in the Konoha camp has asked Ishigamihara for advice. It is also because of this that the teaching is only a few dozen experience points away from upgrading to IV2, 0983 new skills in the past 4 months. Ishigamihara has gained a lot. In addition to the changes in experience points, the biggest change is his own growth. In addition to the new bloodline of violent escape, Ishigamihara has also developed more than 10 kinds of ninjutsu, among which wood style ninjutsu is the most important, and is already involved with style and non-tree aspects, such as flowers and plants. Ishigamihara has a concept that wood style is the most suitable ninjutsu for agricultural production. Using it in battle is really a waste of the value of this technique. In terms of the current productivity of the ninja world, if wood style can be used in production, the productivity of one person may be equal to that of a small country. Of course, this is also a concept for the time being. Ishigamihara has not reached that status yet, and there are some things he will not do for the time being. In addition, Ishigamihara has also done some research on earth style, which is also based on construction research, which will not be discussed for the time being. As for other research, the most research is still in the bloodline aspect. Violent escape is one, and the second is the research on spiritual escape. In Ishigamihara's conception, the spirit escape is a special bloodline formed by combining the yang escape with the yin escape. The spirit escape is based on the sage body, or more precisely, the body of Tsutsuki, and the inspiration comes from the Akamichi clan's expansion jutsu, which is also a physical bloodline. The effect envisioned is that it can be changed at will, which is not very changeable, but it can allow a person's body to transform between different forms. However, it is still difficult for this bloodline to succeed. Even after Ishigamihara's experiments during this period, He has only been able to achieve a certain degree of yang escape chakra nature transformation, and it is still a long way from being truly formed. The violent escape and the spirit escape are the main research during this period. The former has been successful, and the latter still needs to be worked on. All in all, Ishigamihara is quite satisfied with the gains during this period. At least there are results which ordinary people cannot do. In the field, the electric light around Ishigamihara gradually disappeared, and the electric sword in his hand evaporated like water. After doing all this, Ishigamihara nodded slightly, feeling that this attempt met some of the original ideas, and the violent escape was truly successful. This new bloodline can be inherited with Ishigamihara's bloodline. In a sense, Ishigamihara has done a good thing for the ninja world. After doing all this, Ishigamihara put 2 fingers into his mouth and then whistled loudly. Beep! The sound was heard far away. Ishigamihara looked up, and a moment later he saw a falcon falling from the sky, stretching out its claws and landing steadily on his shoulder. This is a gray falcon with a body less than half a meter long, which was raised by Ishigamihara. It has grown up in 4 months from an ordinary flying bird to a summoning beast that has successfully mastered Chakra. During the training period, 3 new skills appeared on the system panel as expected, namely taming, raising, and cultivating. Taming, 27/1000, IV1. Animal affinity, raising, 131/1000, IV1. Nutrition improvement, cultivating, 62/1000, IV1. Thriving growth. The effects of the 3 skills are very simple. The IV1 effect of taming is animal affinity, which makes animals easier to get close to Ishigamihara. It is not a magical ability. The nutritional improvement of the IV1 effect of feeding improves Ishigamihara's feeding effect, and combined with the vigorous growth of the IV1 effect, the 2 are a perfect match. Take the current situation, for example. This little falcon, which could only grow to a wingspan of more than 40 centimeters, now has a wingspan of about 1 meter and a body of about 40 centimeters. It is completely equivalent to an evolution, but this evolution is controllable. The 3 abilities are very ordinary, but Ishigamihara is quite satisfied. As he gets involved in more fields, there will be more and more skills on the system panel in the future. Who knows when he will have a special skill? So Ishigamihara is looking forward to it. He took out a scroll from his arms and said, "Bean, send this scroll back to the village." Cry. The falcon named Bean by Ishigamihara responded with a cry, and then spread its wings directly. 2 cyclones suddenly rolled up from the west of its wings. Bean didn't even flap its wings, and its body soared into the sky. With another cry, it turned and left quickly in the direction of Konoha. Bean is not an ordinary falcon, at least after being cultivated by Ishigamihara. It is different from ordinary falcons. After mastering Chakra, Ishigamihara even created several small ninjutsu based on itself. There are defense, attack, and speed-up ninjutsu, all of which are wind-style ninjutsu, which is just right for Bean's summoning beast state. Its flying speed is extremely fast with the blessing of Chakra and ninjutsu. It can go back and forth between the village and the front line in about half a day, which is very good for delivering messages. In addition to Duzi, Ishigamihara also has a summoning beast. It's time to go check it out. While talking to himself, Ishigamihara's figure disappeared, and no one knew where he had gone. In the northern part of the Land of Grass, near the land of Taki, there is a huge forest. The trees in the forest are generally several times taller than those in the outside world. No tree is less than 40 meters, and the diameter requires several people to hug. This kind of big tree, which is rare in the outside world, seems to be common here. So this place is also called the Giant Tree Forest. There are many wild beasts, and the size of the wild beasts is generally larger than that of the wild beasts in the outside world, just because the natural energy here is abundant, resulting in both plants and beasts being much larger than those in the outside world. Ishigamihara appeared on the crown of a giant tree for a moment, looking down from a high place, and soon followed the summoning mark to feel the target. Come here, of course, to see the second good summoning beast This summoning beast can be regarded as Ishigamihara's main battle summoning beast. Although this main battle summoning beast has not really grown up yet and still has a long way to go, Ishigamihara has great expectations for it. Another whistle sounded from Ishigamihara's mouth, and the sound spread. After waiting for less than a minute, a muffled sound of bangs came to his ears. That was the sound of heavy objects stepping on the ground. As the sound approached, the ground trembled slightly, and soon, a wolf with a fiery red body rushed out of the forest. This wolf has fiery red fur, bright colors, shoulder height of more than 10 meters, and length of more than 20 meters. It is a huge beast with enough land. Good boy. Ishigamihara flashed and appeared in front of the red wolf, stretched out his hand, and the latter lowered his head and let Ishigamihara touch its nose. It seems that you have a good life recently, Red Wolf. 099, I don't want Danzo to live too long. It was named Red Wolf because of its red body and because it was female. Red Wolf was originally an upgraded ordinary wolfhound in the giant woods forest. When Ishigamihara found it, it was driven out by the tribe and was struggling to survive in the forest. At that time, Red Wolf was only more than 2 meters long and was still in its juvenile stage. After being raised and cultivated by Ishigamihara, it was released into the forest when it reached 10 meters in length and gradually grew into the overlord of this area. You should know that other wolves in the Red Wolf tribe are only less than 10 meters long when they mature, which is already a very special species in the giant woods forest. The upgraded Red Wolf is just a mutation in its fur color, and there is no difference from its normal counterparts. But under Ishigamihara's cultivation, it has undergone earth-shaking changes, and it has not yet reached maturity. According to Ishigamihara's estimation, Red Wolf's final size should be able to reach 40 to 50 meters in length, and the shoulder height will be more than 20 meters, which can be compared with the strongest summoning beasts in the ninja world. Like Duzi, Red Wolf also possesses chakra, and the amount of chakra in her body will increase as she grows. Ishigamihara cannot confirm the total amount for the time being, but there is no problem in benchmarking the summoning beasts. Red Wolf was very excited. After being touched on the nose by Ishigamihara, she jumped around, and the ground shook with every hit. The leaves on the surrounding giant trees fell down, and those leaves were half the size of a person. Come eat this. Ishigamihara took out a sealed scroll and unsealed the sealed object, which turned out to be a huge water tank. And in the water tank was a brown ball with a diameter of more than 1 meter. This is a pill specially prepared by Ishigamihara for Red Wolf. Its main function is to stimulate Red Wolf's own cells so that it can extract chakra faster. Red Wolf is very obedient. She runs over and lowers her head. With just a roll of her tongue, the huge medicine ball with a diameter of more than 1 meter enters her mouth. She chews it a few times and swallows it. Then she licks her lips with satisfaction and hums a few times at Ishigamihara. Use chakra to transform the transverse bone of the throat as soon as possible. As a top-level summoning beast, it is not good not to be able to speak. Ishigamihara said. Red Wolf nodded, obviously understood what Ishigamihara said. Chakra is a very magical energy. After an animal has chakra, its intelligence is significantly improved. And if chakra is continuously extracted, the degree of intelligence improvement will be further increased. After all, chakra is the energy generated by the combination of body and spirit, and the spirit is naturally related to intelligence. According to Ishigamihara's estimation, Red Wolf now has at least the average intelligence of a 15 or 16-year-old teenager. In other words, its intelligence is no less than that of normal humans. I'll allow you to hunt normally in the giant tree forest. When I go back, I will summon you to Konoha, and then you will stay in the death forest. Oh, Red Wolf responded, and then lay down in front of Ishigamihara, shaking his head, signaling Ishigamihara to come up. Seeing this, Ishigamihara did not refuse, smiled slightly, and reached his head. Ow! Red Wolf roared, got up suddenly, spread his forepaws, and ran in the forest of giant trees. He was very fast and flexible, easily bypassing the giant trees and running freely. Feeling the strong wind in his face, Ishigamihara smiled and did not urge him, letting this guy gallop in the forest. About a quarter of an hour later, Red Wolf climbed a hill, raised his head, and roared, shaking the whole field. Ishigahara got down from his head, patted Red Wolf's front paws, and smiled. "Stay here at ease. It won't be long before I will summon you away." "Yes." Red Wolf nodded, looked at Ishigahara reluctantly, and then jumped down from the hill. The fall from a height of more than 100 meters caused cracks on the ground, but Red Wolf was fine and ran away with a rumble. The reply from the village came later than expected, and Ishigamihara waited until the next day for Doozy to return and also brought the latest order from the village leaders. Seeing the transfer order on the scroll, Ishigamihara just chuckled. "Go and notify Nawaki to come over and arrange for the wounded and half of the staff to return to the village." Yes, the village leaders decided to let Ishigamihara go back, which was not a mandatory requirement of the village. It was Fukami Yasushi's own idea. The war here has almost been completed, and the remaining things are not a big deal. Even the harassment of Cloud Shinobi will not have much effect at all, but can provide some combat experience for the ninjas of Konoha. Ishigamihara's intention was to replace some people from the village to form a rotation, take on the sneak attack from Cloud Shinobi, and complete a training exercise. The village leaders agreed with Ishigamihara's idea, and also agreed with Ishigamihara's idea of going back, but they left Nawaki on the front line. As for why, it's obvious that it's to train Nawaki and let Nawaki gain some fame on the battlefield. In the past few months, not only Ishigamihara has improved, but Nawaki has also improved greatly. Now its style has a bit of the first-generation style. Although there is still a big difference, it also has some shadow. When Nawaki arrived, he had lost his initial immaturity. He looked resolute, and his face was very calm. "The village's transfer order has come, and I have to go back to the village. Now you're the squad leader here and will lead 2 teams. You have to be more careful here in the future," Ishigamihara said. Nawaki took the transfer order and glanced at it, then nodded. "Is that so? I understand. Are you going back this time to confront the top leaders?" Ishigahara thought about it and nodded. Originally planned to do it later, but Shimura Dans has recently returned. Although I don't know what method that guy used to persuade the Hokage, that guy will not be content, and I don't want him to live too long. DB, Nawaki's mouth twitched and smiled. "Is it unnecessary?" Ishigamihara raised his eyebrows and smiled. "Are you so generous?" What he said was naturally the attack on Nawaki when he first entered the battlefield. Even if there was no evidence, the two knew it well and knew that Shimura Dans was behind it. As if seeing Nawaki's thoughts, Ishigamihara said again, "I didn't say I would attack him directly. After all, I'm a member of the village, and some things still need to be done in a proper way." Okay. Nawaki also knew that Ishigamihara's decision would not change, so he could only accept it. "Don't make too much noise," Nawaki reminded him at the end. "Don't worry."
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.